Welcome to Slamfire Radio, episode 588, recording live on January 15th, 2025. I'm your host, Cowtown Tony.
I'm Adriel.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm also here. This is Ian Runkle.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
can join in for the festivities, Ian.
All right, we'll go to what we did in guns. What we did in guns is currently not being sponsored. If you'd like to sponsor one of our segments, please send an email to slamfireradio@gmail.com. Let's go with Adriel first, so it will give Runkle a little example.
I did a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, I went to Calgary over the weekend. Helped a buddy of mine do some Pal courses. He had a big class for both of them. So went up to help for that, and got a bag. There's a bag back there as a thank you from him, as well as money. But like a Cabela's bag.
Bag of cash, yes.
Yeah. I went to their Cabela's there, and I met listener Benny down there. He's emailed into the show a couple times, and chatted a little bit. He pointed me to, I got some powder for this little guy there. They had some Pirate XP, which is like a pistol, FFFG, a little bit finer, and that runs pretty okay in this. I'd rather have quadruple F because this thing has such a short barrel on it that there's not really a lot of space or for the burn, but got some of that from Cabela's. Good seeing him in the flesh. So on my way down, actually, I stopped at RDSC for some parts to get some AR stuff going, and I got a couple of them like pretty much there. So this one, it looks like it's incomplete, but all this one's missing. This is that straight pull. All it's missing is a forend. So as soon as I got a forend for this one, I got the trigger, safety, everything on there. Just need a forend. Saskatchewan Gunworks, or Saskatoon? Maybe Saskatoon. Saskatoon Gunworks has a 12-inch forend, which is a little bit short, but the price is really good. It's $229.
That's not that good.
Forend.
Oh, 308.
No,
right,
that's amazing. Show me a cheaper one. If you show me a cheaper one, I'll buy the cheaper one. Especially if it's like 15-inch, a little bit more normal length, I'll buy that one instead. But even like I was on Brownells, and all their stuff is like $200 US.
Yeah, I remember 308 being harder.
Yeah, it's expensive. What else I do in Calgary? Met up with Tony. Yeah, Tony and I went for a little shopping trip. We went to Liangjiang, which is like this Chinese store in Calgary that's above a Chinese TNT
Chinese
kind of
supermarket. Yeah, not TNT, but like similar idea.
Similar. Yeah. They had some 50 BMG and 10 packs, so I bought some. Disabled some.
Why not?
Well, I disabled 2 for PAL courses, just to have as like a demonstration cartridge. But now that I've got the rest left, I think as soon as the laws change, I have to buy a 50 BMG because I got this ammo sitting here.
Of course.
I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah, if you have the ammo for it, you need to buy the gun for it.
I'm stuck.
Damn the rules. Damn those rules. I found it funny that the 50 BMG are marked 2022. It's like, why? Aren't they quote unquote prohibited since 2020?
Just the firearms, not the cartridges.
Right, but like, what's the demand of 50 BMG after the ban in the civilian market?
Oh, they're selling.
Maybe too many people are trying to shoot 50 BMG out of their 12 gauge. I would not recommend that.
I don't know.
It just goes blah.
Yeah, I can't imagine it.
Just fireforms it to 12 gauge, and the bullet barely makes it out the barrel.
Yeah, that's what I've heard and seen. Anyways, yeah, so we did that. We hit up Straight Shooters. One of the guys came over. He's like, "Oh, it's you." So I guess that was neat. Review guns, yeah. So Dave, who was the PAL instructor in Calgary, there lent me this little guy to review. This is one of our cope guns. This is the only good PCC cope gun that's left, and it's not even that good. This is a Henry Homesteader. It's in 9mm. You can use the Henry proprietary mags, or you can swap the mag out for Glock mags. Right now it's set up for a lefty, so it's got the magazine release on the right-hand side. I might swap that around and put it on the left side here, just for review's sake, and then get it back to him. So I haven't had a chance to shoot it. I don't know if I'm gonna have a chance to shoot it. I wanted to go out this weekend, but this weekend it's gonna be like -25.
Go. Full synthetic engine oil. Let's go.
A little bit
Cold weather test.
Yeah, there's a couple. Okay, so he had a bunch of parts on this thing come loose. It's like the rear sight, front sight, like a bunch of parts went loose on it. So it doesn't seem like new gun. Maybe they just haven't have their QC figured out. Ergonomically, there's a couple of interesting things. So yeah, the mag release is far forward, and that's the way it is on a lot of these Glock mag PCCs. Not much to do there. The comb is a little bit low for optics, so it's all right for irons, but optics it's a little bit low. The safety, I'm a big fan. It's got a Tang safety, and it is incredibly tactile. Very nice click
Sounds
between them.
Clicky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, listen to that. Very clicky. I don't know if I'd want to hunt with it because it's hard to do it quietly. You can put a rail on it, so there's a rail that's on this one, and that'll allow you to run a red dot or something like that, which is the way I'd go with a PCC as a red dot typically. And yeah, not much else to say about it from here. I still need to strip it down to lock it open. It's got these nice big ambi locks there, so you just pull that back and press up on the lock, and it works how
That's actually very ergonomic.
Yeah,
spot for it.
I think that's safety, and the bolt release, all that kind of stuff is easy to get to. The magazine release is not. The other thing I got for loan for testing is from our own Tony, and that's this Mossberg Patriot in 5.56.
It's not the Patriot.
What is it?
It's MVP. It's
MVP, whatever.
It
Same
takes
thing.
AR mags.
It's
anyway.
the Mossberg 5.56 that takes AR mags. There. How's that?
Sure.
Is there any difference between the MVP and the
I think it's mostly the bottom metal, which accepts AR mags. The barrel contour,
yeah, it's a
I
short
think.
barrel.
Yeah, I think the contour is medium. I think the trigger mechanism is pretty similar.
It's the same. I took some pictures of it. It's their Lightning, their LBA trigger. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, gonna review that. I did some shooting with the Canon. One patch and a ball, no problem. But if you put two patches, because it doesn't feel quite very tight, and then you put it in, it won't get the ball out. It'll just sizzle the gunpowder out the touch hole, and then you got to figure out how to get it out of there.
Do you have the screw-on type?
It's a steel ball. It's a steel ball bearing. It's not a lead.
Jeez.
So you're not going to be screwing into that. So I soaked it in water until the patches disintegrated, and then I pulled it out of there. It's still a pain in the butt. I tried doing like an air gun to the little touch hole there and like hammering it. It didn't work. What else I do? Cannon shooting. My Savage Stevens 334 came in, and I mounted a scope. So it's a Savage Stevens 334, nothing too fancy. I managed to get this scope really low. Look at the gap right there at that magnification ring. Just a touch. Yep. Which on this, so one of the great things about this rifle is that the bolt, sticks out quite a bit, and it doesn't come anywhere near the scope. Yeah, lots and lots of clearance because it's a 60-degree throw. So you can mount your scope nice and low, and the comb is much higher than the Savage Axis, and the trigger is okay. It's not as good as my Savage Axis, just because I had put that M Carbo kit into it. But I think I'm going to hunt with that next year. I have a couple of AR parts remaining to purchase to finish off some of those. I have to get a non-restricted length barrel, a couple of BCGs. SBI is going to be bringing some in, so I'm going to get some from them. That 308 foreign that I was talking about, that M5 Atlas, I think I'm going to get it. $229. That's pretty cheap. That's probably like old pricing. That's why it's so cheap. I should probably buy it.
M5 Atlas for $225.
229. It's only 12-inch though,
Whoa.
so it's a pretty short forend.
You'll be using a bipod anyway.
Well, I want to build this as like a lightweight build, so I'm probably not going to put anything on it.
Straight pull? Lightweight?
Yeah.
Why?
It's very light right now. Like once I got a forend on this thing, it's not going to weigh a lot. Because why not?
Okay.
Yeah. I got this in the mail. I asked these guys for a tripod. They got like some carbon fiber tripods, and I wanted one for SHOT Show so I could do some camera work and that kind of thing. And yeah, carbon fiber, really lightweight tripod. So that's good
like
to go.
We are blocked on YouTube for violating.
Oh, why'd we go on YouTube? Oh,
you held a firearm. Oops.
Wow, they were quick on that one.
You guys
Yeah, sometimes they don't.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to go to SHOT Show this weekend. That's all for me. Kyle, what about you?
Well, I've been stupid busy, a bunch of stuff, but I did get the 308 dummy rounds in to kind of start troubleshooting that Remington 742, and it needs some opinions because I'm not that familiar with the rifle, so I don't know if it's got like different mags for different cartridges, but like a 308 pops right out. Like with no effort at all. It just, you can't get it to seat in the mag. So like it might be a tuning thing on the mag, but that's a lot of bending on those feed lips to get that to work if that's the case.
Can you still get new manufactured Remington pump action mags? Is it a pump?
Well,
no, it's a semi-auto.
No, it's semi.
Sorry.
Yeah, so
every time.
one of my thoughts was maybe it was a 30-06 mag, but it doesn't say anything on the mag on cartridge. So yeah, I don't know if you guys run across that. So, but yeah, so I might try and play with the feed lips on this, or do some more searching on mags to see if potentially he bought the wrong mag.
Well, I mean, you're in the U.S. You can mess around with the mag.
Well, just
You can do
tuning the
whatever you
mag.
want.
You can
What's
do
that?
that, and you can tune your mag in Canada too.
Sure.
All the STI guys. You gotta tune my mag.
SHOT Show prep. So getting camera gear dialed in and getting more get familiar with my editing software so I can try and do efficient editing, and if we have good internet, upload daily updates from SHOT Show. And then yeah, this week I got AGM for our club on Friday and then match on Saturday. So, and then yeah, Monday I start making my way to Vegas. So, yeah, short week for me again this week. I haven't made it out to the range at all, so yeah. Tony, how about you?
So I did a few things. We had a weekend steel challenge, which was a great success. Lots of new faces. Our MD sent out a club-wide email, and that seemed to help. So if you are a match director and you want to attract new shooters in, make it, kind of informal, safety first, of course, but not too overly competitive of a match. And I think that will attract new people, especially for January. That was a great match. I think they started with 20 spots and they had to actually expand it. Unfortunately, I didn't shoot that day. I wasn't too interested in shooting. I don't have a PCC to shoot. And I have the new gun, so I test fired the Savage Impulse against 308, Predator model, AICS mags. And here's my 10-round group from Aguila 762, and you can see there are 7 bullets still in the 10 rounds. It had a lot of light strike issues. Okay, that's fine because that's 762 NATO. It's not exactly the same. Well, here are the rounds for the PPU 308. I'm still getting 50% of a light strike. But on the flip side, the PMC bronze I shot and all my hand loads was the Cam Pro large rifle primers, which I thought was kind of hard, but apparently they're not. They worked all right. Fun targets to show. This was the first one. Side end over here. Bottom 3 are groups. Not too bad. This is 50 yards, not 100. Getting under an inch, so 2 MOA. Not too bad. Sufficient for hunting. But again, these are not expensive ammo or anything. It's just pretty standard ball ammo. And then some more over here. PMC on the top right. And then the other 2 are hand loads with the spear soft points. So for soft points, that's not too bad. I actually really like the recoil. The recoil isn't too bad. All the ammos from factory or my hand loads, not too bad. I'm shooting CFE 223. It's a ball powder, so it's a cooler day. It's around freezing. I'm not too sure. I've heard that ball powder isn't great for cooler weather, so I'm not too sure how that plays into the whole thing. About a recoil comment, the firearm as configured, which you won't see, but the 1560 Golden Eagle on top of it doesn't look as ridiculous as the 223, but still similar. The total weight is 5 kilograms flat or 11 pounds, so it's not light. Just so you know. But I have new Cam Pro bullets on top, the little contraption. I'll explain that later. So I'll be able to shoot some more. I did the gun-related shopping with the hunting gear guy, and you kind of have the aura that the hunting gear guy emits. And the shop clerk came over. It's like, oh,
is it the
someone
stink?
famous in the store? No, I think I stinked way more. And you can see I have a new addition. This is my new gun cabinet, not a safe, although in some jurisdiction it might pass as a safe.
It's a safe.
The jurisdiction is Canada.
Oh, okay.
The lawyer has spoken.
Yeah, the lawyer has
It's a safe.
spoken. This is a safe, but it's not a heavyweight safe. You remember me talking about helping one of my range buddy and neighbor move his new safe. So he sold me his old one for a good price. And of course, that means your stickers have a place to live now. Although I'm kind of getting OCD'd about how the stickers are applied. So it's a little annoying. Initial review of the cabinet safe. It's lightweight, so that's good for me, where I haven't, settled down in my final place of living yet. If I empty the whole thing out, I can hand bomb it myself. It's around 25 kilograms, so it's not too bad. But it is a little, light when it's empty. So I would suggest you put the bullets usually or ammo in the bottom to stabilize it a bit.
Or screw it into the wall if you can, because
that works too.
Well, and that'll keep it from getting stolen too.
Fair, but for me, it's really a legality thing, not a stolen thing. My guns aren't really expensive yet. A big issue with this is it's, I think, designed for hunting guns. So, you'll see this is the 16-inch Savage 822 on the leftmost position. It has a box about 2 centimeters high, just below the butt pad, and then on top of, for length of pull reasons, I actually have a recoil pad on this gun, and it barely reaches the barrel rest. So keep that in mind. That's why I have the little tables I'm trying to 3D print to cover the bottom, so I can give myself some storage space on the bottom, and then lift the barrels up a little bit. I'm also dusting off the second gun in the picture, the SXP. This is actually my first gun. Winchester SXP 12 gauge Defender 5-round, because IPSC shotgun, at least IPSC shotgun style competition, are coming to BTSA later this year when the weather turns better, because PCC is no longer available for the most part. And I will humor myself and shoot this gun. I don't know what kind of an ammo storage situation I'll have. Probably some kind of a hunting belt or bandolier kind of thing. I'll try to double load it, I guess. Maybe we'll go make a main topic out of it with the 2 3-gunners we have here, and that'll be a discussion for another day.
So when are you buying your Dremel?
Oh God, do I have to be a Bubba gunsmith for this?
If you want to load that shotgun, you're gonna want a Dremel to cut out that loading port.
I am looking at Nordic Components magazine extensions, and they do make it for the SXP. So you might see a tiny short barrel with a long magazine
sword.
tube. Yeah, we'll see about that. It's pretty expensive, but they do have a Canadian distributor now, so that's good. Last but not least, how about Runkle? What have you done in guns?
Less than I'd like, because just too darn busy. But I am getting ready for SHOT Show. I am not really good at doing the SHOT Show self-marketing. So I hear, oh, I'm getting my camera dialed in, and I'm getting a tripod, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take pictures with my cell phone. So that's my level of professionalism on all of this. I am going as like, hey, I'm going to be checking out all the stuff, but I also kind of go as just kind of a fan of all of the things. So
Just
I'm going to
follow Adriel around and
that,
then steal all our pictures. That's okay.
I might do that. I am going to be at the Gundies, where I am in the top 5 in the category of most entertaining content creator.
Oh, not 2A advocate this time? Aw. I
am not going to win most entertaining content creator because I'm up against some people who are much better than I am in that field. But I'm in the top 5, and mostly it'll mean that I can go and sort of meet some people who I want to meet and talk to some people who I want to talk to. So that's exciting. That's about it. I've been otherwise just dry fighting. I mean, I guess you guys already got us kicked off of YouTube. I could pull out some of the toys.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking like, let's go on YouTube so we can, share this to the biggest audience. But then I promptly pulled out guns.
And maybe it was too soon or something, because we've done it on YouTube before and they've messed up. I'm impressed they caught it so soon.
It might be because I just caused a major disaster here. We'll see if that has had long-term consequences. But
as long as there's no liquid.
No, it was just 2 monitors falling to the falling a distance. So we'll see if those are operable. But I was trying to dig out because we're already kicked off of YouTube, right? So
correct.
Yeah, go for it.
All the guns, yes.
This is one I have yet to get properly as I smack into my mic. Oh, I'm just making a giant mess here. This thing is large, so it is unwieldy.
For the listeners, Runkle might be pulling out an M134 minigun. We don't know.
No, I am not. I wish. That would be nice. I don't have the actual... I've got it partially disassembled, because the first thing I have to do with this thing is get it dialed in.
Whoa.
And I'm going to want to sort of do some bore sighting on it. So I can't do that with the thing actually in place. But
ooh,
I've got this toy.
This is a very nice paint job. I love it.
Yeah. I got this at an auction, NFA auction, but it's a KelTec precision rifle. It is very expensive to shoot. So I'm going to want to be careful. I'm probably actually going to buy like a laser bore sighter for it, even though it's in a weird, it's in an unusual cartridge. So that'll be fun to try to find.
Just sight it in 10 yards and then calculate your drop and then re-zero it. 2 shots, all you got, all you need.
All right. Well, I'm not all that good at that. I haven't done a whole lot with it. So I haven't sort of had to do a whole lot of re-zeroing. So that's going to be a project. And given that it's like $18 to pull the trigger on it,
what's it chambered in?
300 Norma Magnum.
Ooh,
that's sick.
So
what?
Yeah,
the 50 BMG we got was $6 a shot. $6.
If you can find cheaper ammo, I would love to find it. I had to go everywhere in order to pick this up, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of stuff that you can take back from SHOT Show, because there's the import restrictions. Now, I've got my business license at long last. It was only more than $10,000 and many years.
Whoa.
And
that's not cheap.
They also put so many conditions on it that I can't actually use it for anything. So as a result, I'm taking them to court over that because I have to. Because, for instance, they said that I can, like, I am, the primary purpose on it is for being a film armorer. So doing my YouTube videos. The problem is that they put on a restriction that says that I cannot have ammunition anywhere on the site where filming is happening. So the problem is it's like, okay, you can have these guns. And then it's like, well, what am I going to do with the guns? I'm either going to take them to the range or I'm going to have them in where I do my filming, which is here, my house. And so the notion that I'm not going to have any ammo at my house is not viable. Like, I don't see that happening. So I'm planning on doing a video being like, yes, I've got my business license. It means I can own, and I've bought one prohib. It's not a fun prohib. It's a short-barreled pistol. But I'm waiting for a restock to get like a PPSH and maybe a Scorpion. Just to have some more fun things to do videos on. But I will probably do a video being like, look at this prohib that I got. And then look at how I can't even use it because I can't have any ammo at my house. And of course there's ammo at my house, right? So
Just so you know, last month, a lot of us got a lot of prohibs.
that is true. But here's the thing. I don't want to actually transfer those prohibs into my business at this point.
Interesting.
I am hopeful that the law is going to change and that we are going to be able to just go back to the range. That would be very nice. But yeah, I mean, worst case, I might transfer them in, but I gotta make decisions on that, and I don't want to make a decision right now when I don't have to. So long as the amnesty is in place. The other thing is it's difficult to find a range that will let you shoot these things. So there are other rules on private ranges that are only used by employees of the business. So in completely unrelated news, I bought some land. And
only somewhat unrelated.
So now you have a private range, question mark.
I might, yeah. Once I
call Terry Bryan right now. I want to certify the prohib range, please.
Well, the certification process for a private range used only by employees of the business is a little different than the certification process for a regular range. So, and it might allow me to do more fun things. So there might be video content that I can't. I mean, the ironic thing is that I'll have the ability to make some of these videos and tackle some of these interesting legal questions, but not put them on YouTube, because YouTube will have some issues if I, for instance, do videos where I am rocking a full auto. They will be like, that's a problem. They might have some issues if I'm like, okay, well, what does it mean? You know, what happens if we file this magazine down? What happens if we, that kind of thing? Because it might be interesting to just like take a magazine and take a file and just be like, all right, when does this thing become illegal? Those kinds of fun questions. I have an AR mag that was this was Chinese manufacturer, and the apparent Chinese way of sort of limiting them to 5 rounds was not to put a pin in it, but to Dremel out the side of the mag. And it's like, well, what happens if I
that before, right?
If what happens if I slap
glue
duct
it
tape
together?
on this?
Yeah.
You know, what happens if I you know, just that kind of thing might be a fun, you know, fun video. And all of this is just stuff I'd like to play around with. I get questions. There's some really unusual ones I want to play with as ideas. The law bans sort of hand crossbows. And the definition of a hand crossbow is a crossbow that is designed to be aimed and fired with the action of one hand. Now, I'm wondering, just as a fun legal question, if I build a ballista out of like truck leaf springs and mount that on a trailer, but if I have it fired by means of motors that are controlled by a joystick, is that a prohibited weapon? And so then I basically will build this ridiculous thing and see about taking it to a verifier and being like, so what do you think of this thing? My truck mounted crossbow. And have them go, we don't know.
Wow.
I love it.
Other sort of stupid things I might play with, just to like point out that the law can be really weird, is take a gun and replace the trigger mechanism with a thing that just is attached to a clock, so that it fires like every 12 hours.
You got some weird ideas, Ian.
Which is technically full auto in Canada. But if we have something that only fires at noon and always fires at noon, is this really the kind of thing? And you might say, well, that's stupid. Why would anybody have this? Except the thing is that lots of places have this mounted to like as a way of firing cannons. Because,
right, like the one in Vancouver, like in Stanley Park, isn't it?
Now, I don't know if they've got that on an electric system or if they have some guy whose job it is to fire it, like, you know, sit there with a watch and a match. But
no,
it is
I'm pretty sure it's not, but because I missed it by a few minutes because it was early. Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, if you had it set up to be automated as the 12 o'clock gun, have you now created a prohibited firearm? All of these things are sort of fun questions to play with, but and some of the things I want to play around with. The problem is they also didn't put manufacturing on, notwithstanding the fact that I asked for manufacturing, and that manufacturing, in some cases, modification can be just, you know, they might classify it as manufacturing. So, you know, just questions like, what is a gun? Because the law says that something is a gun if it is readily adaptable to be a gun. So the question there becomes like, okay, let's say I take a block of marble, drill a hole in it, drill a second smaller hole in it to run a fuse through, and then dump some powder in, stick a fuse through it, and stick like a ball and a patch in it. Is this block of marble a gun? Well, I mean, I might be able to get the block of marble to shoot a projectile that can exceed 500, you know, feet per second, and that would be capable of puncturing an eyeball. But they said readily adaptable to be a firearm is also a firearm. So if it only took me 2 drill holes to make this thing into a gun, did that mean that the block of stone was a gun from the outset? I'm kind of spoilering my own planned video, but it is what it is. I'm sure people will watch it when it happens. But then does it mean that this block of stone was always a gun? And if it was always a gun, then what does that mean for everyone who picks up like a brick off the street, right? So, yeah.
If you have a single-sided steel tube,
or
things like that.
A
One
cannon.
hole. That's it.
or a cannon.
And all of these things just I think, there's a lot of potential sort of fun things. Some of them I can put on YouTube, some of them I can't, but I'll put them up on like Rumble or something like that, just so that people, because I mean, as much as it's nice to make money off the YouTube thing, a lot of the purpose of some of these things is just to be like, let's either play with interesting legal questions or let's answer some questions, because there's a lot of things out there that gun owners argue about legal wise over and over and over again. And sometimes it's good to be able to just be like, okay, let's discuss this one. I've got a video that I'm working on, and I say working on because I've recorded it about 18 times, and each time I go, this needs to be better, and I throw it out and I need to start over. Eventually I'm going to get over that perfectionism on this one, but the video topic is basically dying with guns, like how to do it well, because all sorts of like wills and estates issues, and what happens with your family after, if I suddenly drop dead, right? What should my wife know about? So maybe I got to make it 2 videos, just as like, here's how you prepare and plan to die with guns. And the other one is, so your relative just died. What are we doing here? Like, how do we respond to this? Because sometimes the government does things that are absolutely disgusting when people die. Like, let's say I died today, they might show up at my door, my wife's door now, and be like, so we need to take his guns into custody. They have done this on numerous occasions. And the thing is they don't actually have the authority to do that, because they don't get to take your stuff just because they want it. In fact, that stuff is part of the estate, and there are legal protections that apply to you as the person who just inherited a bunch of guns. So, that kind of thing I think would be really helpful for people to know. And all of this is, I guess, a little long-winded. Most of it is stuff I haven't done yet, but I am hoping to go. The main thing is just I'm looking forward to SHOT Show, I guess. So
I think that video on what to do if your relative dies with guns, I think that's a good one, Ian. If you haven't done that before, that's a terrific one to do.
And I think that paired along with I think it's also got to be paired with here's how you make it easy for your relatives. Just like put the stuff in your will, talk to people ahead of time, because one of the things that happens all the time is that people don't even talk to their relatives and go like, hey, would you want to inherit a bunch of guns? Because sometimes the answer to that is no, that they don't want to inherit a whole pile of guns. And in which case, maybe that's not the best person to give the guns to, right? Whereas, and the other thing is, I don't do this, but a lot of, a lot of relatives out there, people might not be honest about, what the value of their guns are. You've got some gun owners who go to the gun show and they come back and they say, I spent $300. And they came back with like a pristine Lee Enfield serial number of like 8. And they're like, I spent $300. And they didn't. And then what happens is their relative, like after they pass, their relative goes and they're like, well, I'm going to sell these guns, and somebody offers them $300 for that gun. And they go, that sounds good to me. That's about what he said he spent on. Don't do that. Make a list. Make a list for them to say like, hey, here's about what I, and date it so that they can run that through inflation, and tell them the steps to take to actually get it valued by somebody who's going to give them a valuation that is not useless.
Or just have
all
a
of
good
these
friend
things
that can do that, like a good gun friend that can do that.
Yeah, exactly. But give them that name, right? like, hey, here, and talk to that friend ahead of time, right? So all of these kinds of tips are things that I think would be helpful, but yeah, it's we'll have to sort of work on that one.
After SHOT Show.
Oh, after SHOT Show, nothing's happening until SHOT Show.
Cool. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Cool.
Quite a few big projects going on. If you want to follow Runkle's videos and tips on how to do inheritance on your gun, or if you need to pass them along, subscribe to Runkle of the Bailey on YouTube. Upcoming events. I guess Maple Seed is still in hiatus right now. What about HGG farm training?
Yeah, we're doing those. I've got a class right after SHOT Show. I'm basically flying back and doing a course like that weekend, January 25th, 26th. That'll be at Sherwood Park. February 8th and 9th in Devon. February 22nd, 23rd at Sherwood Park again. March 1st and 2nd in Devon, and then March 22nd and 23rd at Sherwood Park. Our Pal Saturday, our Pal Sunday. They're selling out really well right now. I think it's because, well, I mean that one that I was doing in Calgary, that was the biggest one Dave's ever done. It was 37 people, and we had a pile of instructors. But 37 people is a big class.
That's got to be tough to manage.
No, with enough manpower, like with enough instructors, it was fine. So like, which is great because you get one location. It was a church. We could have like 100 people if we needed to, right? We used their gym for the practical part of it. So we had like tables all around the outside, just like crap loads of guns. So everyone got, and we had instructors, like tons of instructors, basically an instructor every 5 people. So yeah, it was there. I'm not really sure why there were so many people signing up. Didn't ask, but I don't know if it's people maybe like getting Christmas gifts and they need those they need a license so they can officially own it, or maybe people who saw the news and they're like, oh, the government's going to change over. Maybe it's time to get the license and think forward.
I see listener Elizabeth is already liking your video idea, so
I actually know that there's a ton of people who have been looking at getting guns, including people who are normally sort of more left-leaning, who are like, well, I might have missed the boat and I want to get in on it. And the weird thing I've heard from a bunch of people is like, well, I don't like polyevro, but I really hope he like reverses these gun bans so I can get a handgun. And it's like, well, are you going to vote for him? No. It's like, vote for, like, if you want the guns back, you got to vote for it.
That's an interesting thought process.
Well, they're just very, sort of.
They might not be like one issue voters as well, right? I am.
Yeah.
Whichever party has the better gun laws, that's the one I'll vote for. I don't care about the other stuff. If the Liberals had a great gun policy, I would vote for them.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
And then shower afterwards.
Luckily, I don't have to do this. I can vote for the Conservatives. Not that it matters where I am anyways, but
Well, if the bell system is still broken, but I can conceal carry a pistol, I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see, because the Liberals are going to have although it looks less like they're going to have a nomination campaign and more like they're having a coronation because of the interesting things that are coming out about, sort of the Freeland-Carney connections. That's a whole fun topic, but not really, I guess, on topic. But it'd be interesting if like firearm policy made up part of their discussions, because I would I'd be interested to see if they can come up with something a little more a little more reasonable. You might get some people wanting to back away from things. So yep.
Yeah. So I don't think the Liberals will ever get away from gun control. It's religion.
Well, that's upcoming events too. Off-Spec War is having a Stop the Bleed course in Edmonton, which if you're a frequent shooter, I'll say that is very important. So that's very good. And for BTSA, as I mentioned previously, we'll have Action Shooting League, which is the unofficial IPSC matches, IPSC shotgun style, coming soon. And that is about all the upcoming events. Moving on to news, I think we mentioned this last week a little bit. They just made borrowing ATT a little bit more difficult. You have to fill in a form, which I'm not totally against, and wait 2 weeks to have them process that. So if you have a match and you're going to borrow a pistol, or well, mostly pistols, any restricted, I guess.
I'm guessing that it's not for them to process. It's just that they're intentionally making it slower.
Which is fair.
Yeah. Oh, so I was gonna say, where is that? Is that just Canada wide, or?
Yep.
Oh, so there's like a 2-week waiting period. You can't like fill it out and transport that weekend.
So previously, you could call in, or do the online form, and the borrowing ATT you could get the next day. Now that borrowing ATT has a 2-week wait period on it.
Next day isn't even accurate. You can get a same day.
Yeah, well, you can't anymore.
Well, yeah, the process. My experience was the process was slight. I don't think there's a formal one, and it's slightly different every single time. Like different agents will ask you different questions. The ATT they give you will be slightly different. But basically, the current owner gives a call first, and then they're gonna call you, the borrower, and then it's gonna be a few exchanges. Can you confirm your name? Can you confirm your PAL number? What range do you go to? Where do you want to go with this thing? How long is it going to be? Usually they send you an email right there or within an hour or so. You got your ATT, you can go to your friend's place to pick it up or something like that. But
yeah.
So just a little bit more difficult. Let's go to new gun stuff. It looks like we do have a few. I think the first few were by Adriel. Let's take a look.
Yeah, they're releasing stuff ahead of SHOT Show, I think is what's happening. Because that's where a lot of these are, and I'm going to save the best for last. But
is the best that new Kimber?
Kimber? No, is there a new Kimber?
Isn't it Kimber that put out that what is it?
5.7.
Yeah, the 5.7 that is clip fed. Oh, KelTec, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's going to come up last. That is the best. The first one here is Aimpoint. They released a new optic, a red dot optic in collaboration with Glock. So when I first, I'm seeing too much of this. I don't like it. They're changing the plate systems, and they're all going proprietary. So this Aimpoint plate system is a new plate system. It mounts lower, sure. It's proprietary. They use their A-cut. And if you look at it, yeah, it is quite low. It actually, like the rear sight grabs onto the back of the red dot. So like there are screws in that rear sight, but that's not what's causing, like the recoil is acting against a cut on the front and a cut on the back. So it's not acting on screws. So you don't need to worry too much about the screw depth. And on the rear sight, you have more meat to get there, and you can mount the red dot lower.
Are you going to be able to co-witness with stock sights?
Co-witness as in see the sights and see the dot at the same time?
As in, I just shattered a glass. Can I fire it, aim it?
Oh, sure. But you could do that with that. I think we looked at a primary arms optic that we could do that with last week, right? That primary arms.
I'm pretty sure the EOTech EFLX, you can. It's got a notch cut out in the back for co-witnessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We needed less footprints on pistol dots, not now we got like a dovetail cut instead of a screw pattern for pistol dots. That's the opposite direction.
Imagine if you buy one of these and then it loses popularity, and then 10 years from now you're like, my red dot broke. I want to get like this new cool one out here that has like, I don't know, 15,000 or 150,000 hours of battery life. Nope. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't you worry. Someone's going to make a cut to MOS or something. You can definitely probably compatibility.
Yeah, probably. That's probably the right thing. But
on the same
token,
really at that point,
you dongles?
lose the
Apple
low
marketing.
mounting of it.
Sorry, go ahead, Kyle. I keep interrupting you.
I've seen MOS plate. Now you're losing the low mounting of the dot. Might as well just, instead of custom, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like. So I like that they're trying to make them lower. I like that we got more red dots coming out. I don't like more plate systems coming out. And if Aimpoint's got one and Primary Arms got one and all these other guys got one, it's just going to be a mess. Holosun ARO, Advanced Rifle Optics. This is their basically the next gen of their 403 and 503. Yeah, there's new red dot from Holosun. A little more compact. I didn't really, yeah, their mount looks great. Very, very lightweight, skeletonized kind of a thing. I can use it. Is this the one that uses a T2? Yes, T2 footprint. 50,000 hours on a CR 2032, which is pretty standard these days. Would have been like absolutely mind-blowing 10 years ago out of something like this. Shake awake, all that jazz. Yeah.
Cool.
PSA 570. So it doesn't work to show videos, but who put this one in?
That's me. So I think this is selected as the most popular project got voted on from last year's SHOT Show. I think they're going to do another one this year, but the 570, basically their modular shotgun idea is coming to fruition second half of 2025. If IPSC shotgun is still a thing at that time, I will probably build one.
What is it? Is it a 590?
No, it is
worked on?
It takes 8.7. It's a brand new gun.
870,
takes
yeah.
870 furniture, but shares nothing with the 870. They have this innovative front clamp, so your barrel and your mag tube is completely separate, where you can swap them out as you see fit. Quite a few ergonomic improvement. For example, a side like trigger finger slide release, which looks pretty good. Tank safety.
Oh, okay.
So pretty interesting pump action gun. I would like the crew to check out the PSA boost because I'm kind of a fanboy now at SHOT Show. And as a listener, if you have any suggestions or things you want us to see, send those suggestions in on either Discord or slamfireradio@gmail.com.
Interesting. Why would you get one of these instead of a semi-auto, though?
Because there is a manual division, and this is Tony's playground. If you can shoot a manual gun, you're not going to shoot a semi-auto.
Okay, hear me out though, Tony.
Less competitive then. You want the less competitive division. Is that the case?
But okay, but keeping with the manual division, I have two options. There's a couple things that you mentioned on this that I like. Like,
Okay.
I'm not opposed to crossbolt safety, but I know some people like the tang safety. The side mount bolt release or bolt lock release or slide lock release, whatever you want to call it, is nice. But being PSA, I'm willing to bet you could go find an old steel receiver, or not steel receiver, but a steel trigger guard 870, an older 870 for less, and build that out and have twice the pump action gun. Or go buy a Supernova. Especially
Nova,
hearing
Nova
that, like
speed.
If that bolt and the rail system is interchangeable, there's upgraded stuff for the 870 out there. But if they've gone to proprietary bolt and rail system, I would not be trusting a PSA to be a competitive shotgun.
Rail system, which part?
The rail system on your pump. So on an 870, you got the 2-bar rail system for releasing your shell and stopping the next shell for feeding. And so, like, when in the video there, you could see the rail, but yeah, it'd be interesting on the internals if they are interchangeable with 870, because then right price, you could buy the PSA, change the internals to upgraded race internals, put your mag tube on there, and go to the races. Also, thread pattern on the extension.
So that's an interesting idea. I think we're getting a better suggestion in the comments though. and that's to use one of the bolt action shotguns in.
Well, Wheeler, here is the issue. You cannot have a detachable mag or twin tubes. I thought about using a KSG. You cannot have that for IPSC shotgun. So that
I
will
would love
put
to
you,
watch you load that.
that will put you into open right away. And you can only start with 9 rounds loaded. I don't think there's some cap on it. So
In manual?
yeah, I think you can have a 25 round tube. You just have to start.
That's not a problem for
Loading.
the bolt actions because most of them just have a 3-round mag.
Right, but
Yeah, no issue.
because you have a detached magazine, you're automatically into open. So it's probably possible, but I'm thinking most
Playing
of
with
the
the
bolt
big
action.
boys. Yeah, I like it.
I'm thinking most of the bolt action shotguns would be rifled too. So
Not all of them. No,
not all of them, but a lot of them would
Yeah.
be.
Good luck getting 3 rounds loaded with this.
But yes, Tony, we will be. I'm sure we're going to find our way to the PSA booth, and we'll check it out for you.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna do a show on IPSC shotgun this year.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna get big. I was seeing some
Yeah.
posts on Reddit about guys who are gearing up for IPSC shotgun in Ontario, and I heard BC is going to be running it, and Tony, you're mentioning that they're going to do it in Calgary.
Oh,
I think Ontario, it's been big for a bit. Like ever since nationals, they keep having
well,
provincials.
Ontario's they even before nationals, they were having level 3 matches out in Ontario before the nationals. They just never sanctioned them as nationals,
That's pretty cool.
and then they held the nationals. But on the IPSC shotgun, I don't have. Somebody sent a King competition caddy to my house. Well, is sending. And so I will actually have more than a couple pulls off of it. I'll test it out and compare it to the mag load.
That's what I saw on Reddit. The guy had got is a King competition one. Big,
Yeah,
badass
off
rig.
my original looking at it, I didn't like it, but we'll save that for the IPSC shotgun show and after I play with it.
I don't even think there's anywhere that offers it in Canada, is there?
Um,
Hayes has it in the U.S.
Yeah, Hayes has it. I thought there was.
Oh, Calgary Shooting Center has them.
Do they?
Oh,
I didn't like how you had to rock the shells out because
Are
they
they?
cup around the bottom of the shell. So to pull them off, it wasn't just a straight pull out. You had to rock your top out and then pull them.
Ian, take a look at these prices. So some guys use these for 3-gun. Let's 20, that'd be a good one, right? That's €270.
That's the most expensive 20 round external magazine I've ever seen.
Let's see what mag load is.
It might be even more.
I don't want to play this game anymore. It's not for the cheap people.
No, they're up there though.
I'll look at the Nexus, the cheap ones.
I bet no one want to pump their shotgun that hard, so I think I can still win my division because no one's gonna come out and play.
No, there's gonna be some guy with some Nova speeds that you're gonna be
So
competing
we were looking
against,
at
and those
20.
things are
Maybe.
quick. What's that, Kyle?
What's the conversion from euro to pounds?
£2?
Because mag load prices in pounds. So they're $157 for their peasant caddy for 20
I can
round
only
peasant
convert
caddy.
this to depression.
186.
Okay.
Yeah. That's reasonable compared to the King. Anyways, let's get on to the grand finale of the new in guns this week. The PR57 from KelTec. Truly one of the guns.
Brand new concealed
Of all the guns ever, that is one of them.
That is
compact conceal carry pistol.
in 5.7. So not
For the
only do you need some
listeners-
compact, you need to penetrate.
KelTec sticker on my safe, just so you know.
Okay. For you guys already know.
The
But
features.
we'll lay it out for the listeners. This thing is super lightweight, like half the weight of a Glock 17. It's stripper clip fed. It holds 20 rounds of 5.7, and it's a rotary barrel that locks at the muzzle. which is absolutely wild. It's got stripper clip fed. Look at this multi-lug, dual recoil rod, multi-lug barrel nonsense that's going on.
What do you mean? This is just a combination of World War II. You have your German pistol, which loads from the top. You have the Lee Enfield, which has a rear locking setup instead of a front locking setup. Now it's just the other way around. It's very much in the front, not in the back.
This is the only handgun that I know of that has a rotary bolt at the muzzle. Absolutely wild. I think it's a cool idea. It's a very cool idea. And
God, I hope this thing's at the industry range day.
They say it's 40% lighter than the next lightest 5.7 pistol on the market. Yeah, it's way lighter.
Which is probably theirs too.
The thing is I will not only shoot this thing if it's at the range day, I'm going to sit and watch people shoot the thing because I suspect there's going to be a lot of, hey, so I tried to use this gun and look at it jam.
I think it's going to be very snappy because it's so light and it's shooting 5.7. I want one.
Oh, I kind of want one, but I also kind of don't. And
okay, wait. I didn't get to the best part. The price. The MSRP is $399 US.
Seriously?
Yeah.
KelTec.
Oh hell, I'm importing one.
I want one of these things. That's ridiculous.
I might have
I will
to
literally
at some point
buy one. I am gonna do a video on it. I'm gonna be like, hey, this is what they took from us. It's the dumbest gun ever, but
what's the barrel length?
One anyway.
It's long enough. It's long enough. 4.64.
They didn't even take us from us. Well,
everyone
everyone might have one.
Yeah, it's long enough. Look at the weight. Where is it? 13 ounces or 393 grams. A Glock 17
ounces.
Yeah, it's
less than
ridiculous. The Glock 17 is 690 something grams. A Glock 17 unloaded with no mag, same as this one. Unloaded, 393. It's ridiculously light.
Wow.
Which,
so is the whole thing plastic then?
I think so. I think the whole lower is going to be plastic.
Yeah.
The slide has to be metal. Well, that part has to be metal at the front there. And I don't see the difference down there. The back is plastic. That's plastic. That's metal to plastic right there.
The answer to how you limit it in Canada is you don't.
No, you do it like the SKS, right? Same idea. Throw a pin.
Except it's rotary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can pin the body.
The magazine is a rotary. The
barrel's rotary. Yeah.
Oh, the magazine is just a straight. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's a straight
I've seen
double stack in there.
Oh, that's gonna be such a
yeah.
That said, I got the Prohib thing, so I wouldn't pin it. I'm just gonna import one.
I'm super interested at that price. So if you wanted a 5.7 pistol, what's the next one you can get? That Ruger one, probably, right? And it's like
the Ruger
5.7. Yeah. No. PSA, the Rock.
I didn't see any of those in Canada before the ban.
Wow.
I know some guys.
There was only two before the ban. It was literally just the FN and the Ruger.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting new world. Like one of the things I was thinking about when I was thinking about like what are we gonna do when we go to SHOT Show? I'm kind of curious. Like how long has it been since we've had ARs? 5 years since we've like seen the cutting edge in ARs. I'm kind of curious to see what's going on.
Oh, I just
saw
this
something.
5 years ago.
It's going to be, we've got a slightly different angle on the foregrip. That's the problem, is a lot of the stuff you'll see at SHOT Show is not super innovative because there's there'll be a few things, but there's going to be a lot of people who are like, yeah, this is another, little chassis to put your Glock in. And it's like, okay, cool. What differentiates it from the other 12 boots with that? It's like nothing. There's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the arguments on the line over clip versus mag with that pistol?
I was thinking, like, if you wanted to shoot that in 3-gun, like, how would you carry your clips? You need like a chest rig or something like that, right?
Well, you just do like they were doing for the M1. Just take some Kydex and make yourself some pouches for clips.
Mm-hmm.
You hope they are like
Or find someone selling all the pouches that used to come with the SKSs and run those on your belt.
I have one of those. Yeah. Anyways, I am super. That's a like KelTec in true KelTec fashion.
Yes.
Like doing all the coke and designing all the weird guns. That is by far the weirdest gun I've seen, and probably in the last 3 years.
Well, they've toned it down the last couple of years, I think. Like last year, it was last year it was the Gen 3 of that Sub 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was how long ago was
that? Was the big release last year? Was the Gen 3 for the Sub 2000?
Kyle was there.
I know because I covered it.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, the year before that they had the P90, the P50, the P90 at home.
But that's cool. But it's not as weird as this. This is
that thing you have to break open to reload. Come on.
This thing's a stripper clip fed under 400 gram pistol, 5.7 pistol with a rotary barrel with lugs at the front. There are no other pistols that which other pistol has rotary lugs at the front? None. There's probably a good reason for that.
They're not KelTec. They're not innovative enough.
Maybe, or maybe that too many people have been stung by that trying to do that kind of thing.
To be honest, not enough rotary barrel pistols out there. There's this PX4. That's
a ground power.
Ground power
Excalibur. Yeah.
Gun, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one my dad had. It needed to be extremely clean.
Yeah. My Chinese CF98, it's a rotary barrel. That's my PAL gun.
Okay.
Anywho, let's get on to a main topic.
For the main topic, welcome firearm industry's favorite lawyer, Ian Runkle. And we have the question for Runkle. If you were to rewrite the Firearm Act, what would you do?
Okay, well, I mean, the first thing is I'm going to have to steal something from the actual CPC policy, which is simplified classification. And the reason why this is a good idea is because right now, in order to go over and determine what the classification is, like let's say the police find a gun in somebody's house. Right now, the classifications process is that they may need to go over like thousands of entries in this bloody, regulation set that we've got. Interpret weird edge cases. It can actually be quite difficult. And I've had cases where they've arrested people for things that are legal because the police got it wrong. And I've had situations where the police misclassified a firearm in ways that cut a break to criminals. So, simplifying this classification down really makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something that a lot of people can sort of understand. Long gun, non-restricted. Handgun, restricted. Full auto, prohib, right? And it just really makes everything sort of much, much simpler. And apparently we've been kicked off of Facebook is what people are saying online. I don't know if that's the case, but so that's kind of the first thing. There's a lot of things with respect to how police seize firearms. And so some of that I would clean up. And what I mean by cleaning up is that it's entirely possible to you get weird sort of edge cases, and it doesn't provide a good set of what they should do. So like police will go in and they'll seize firearms saying, we don't have time to get a warrant. Well, often I think it's it's not entirely clear that they didn't have time to get a warrant. Oh, we got Facebook saying that they are still up. Because, for instance, what they'll do is they'll take somebody in on a psych hold and they'll say, we didn't have time to get a warrant. Well, you kind of did, though, because they're in on a psych hold, and a warrant doesn't take long. A warrant is, a couple of hours, maybe. So, these kinds of things, I would try to clean that process up, remove the sort of cowboyishness to it, and clean up the process for challenging the government. Because right now, I'm locked in a court battle over jurisdiction. And there's actually this running history of jurisdictional question cases, because they keep, every time the government wants to do something, but they don't want it to be challenged, they'll try to play this jurisdictional game. And that, I think, really needs to stop. It needs to be clear and simple, the process for disagreeing with them. All of this should be just sort of cleaned up. And I would probably take the ATT process and just kind of say, okay, well, let's simplify this too. A lot of our system is needlessly complicated, has this giant needless bureaucracy. And I don't think the ATT process has solved a single crime. It, what does it actually accomplish? Because the people who are sort of legitimate gun owners aren't messing around with it. And the people who, there has never been anybody who's applied for an ATT to be like, I want to take my handgun and stand around downtown selling drugs. Nobody's doing this, right? So we got to evaluate, is this actually making any sense? But there's also some places where our law makes it very difficult to enforce that we could clean up and fix. For example, there's a requirement to report a firearm as lost or stolen. And what that typically, what that's typically used for is as an anti straw purchase kind of thing, right? If somebody has a bunch of guns and they're like, they were stolen, it's like, well, did you report that? Or is this just, on the rare occasion where you've got somebody who's like selling guns illegally, they might claim they were stolen. Okay. And it's like, did you report that? Can that be investigated at the time? Can we look into that? But the problem is unless somebody actually confesses to that, it is impossible to prove, because it says that you have to report it to a peace officer. Well, who are peace officers in Canada? Well, police are peace officers, but also a pilot in flight is a peace officer, and a mayor is a peace officer. So you end up with the question of, how do you prove that they never reported this to like a mayor in anywhere in Canada, right? How do they prove that they didn't report it to a pilot?
So if hypothetically you are a straw farm dealer, but you fly a propeller plane on a weekend, can you self-report it to yourself?
I think it would probably have to be someone else, but
okay, your dad flies a plane then.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically.
Hey, Dad, I lost more guns this weekend.
It's like the problem is that all of these laws were written not by people who are good at writing laws or who understand firearm issues, but who are politicians. Like, this is really done for political purposes. And there's a ton of things like we ban here. I'm going to break out on. Am I allowed to pull out a prohibited weapon on stream? We're kicked off of YouTube already.
You're good.
They don't know what the difference is anyway.
Oh.
Oh, good.
You know where I bought this highly illegal knife?
Home Depot?
Home Depot. They had it. You actually have to ask them for it. They actually had it where they're. But the reason is because people steal the knives. But the reason why this is prohibited is because you can do that. There's another model also prohibited. This one also prohibited. And that's because you can flip it open. By the way, for the people who are now looking to call the police, I do have my business firearms license, and that's why I've got these. But it is idiotic that these things that are popular with tradespeople are prohibited. And that, again, I bought both of these at Home Depot. There are tons of these sold from the Home Depot, notwithstanding the fact that I just showed you the thing that makes them illegal. And, there's going to be tons of tradesmen who are, just carrying this thing around. and don't realize that they're actually committing some serious crime in the process, right? That is insane to me that we have. And when you look at like the blowgun laws, we banned blowguns. I don't think there's ever been a blowgun fatality in Canada ever. But the only case I could find where they actually like pursued a blowgun anything was that he was there was a guy who did like he was a reporter and he did some work in South America, and he was actually helping this group protect their land by reporting on their sort of plight. And in thanks, they gave him some sort of ceremonial gifts, which included a pair of blowguns. And so he got these gifts as like appreciation for assisting this Indigenous group. And then he tried to bring them back into Canada, and Canada seized them. And I tried reaching out to the guy to find out what happened. He never responded, but my suspicion is that they would have been destroyed. So like, yay, we prevented this highly dangerous journalist from keeping the things he was given in thanks for like meaningfully assisting a vulnerable group. Good job, team.
Isn't a blowgun just a straw?
Well, that's the thing, is if you want to buy a blowgun today, that is also Home Depot. Because if you look online about how to like get into blowgunning, which not a lot of people are interested in, the sort of starter blowgun that they suggest is just go to Home Depot and
buy a stainless steel tube?
Just a piece of copper pipe.
Oh, there you go.
Like just plumbing pipe, right? And you can't ban this because it's the same pipe that you use in your house for water. So all of these things are, you know, we ban all of these various weapons, and it's insanely racist because they basically banned everything that was from Africa or India or Asia.
China, Japan, samurai sword, like throwing stars, mornings, like throwing stars.
Throwing knives, still legal.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing stars, illegal. What's the difference? Well, racism. So maybe we can strip all of that out and say, like, do we really need to worry about a guy who's got, you know, a job knife? Like, is this really our primary concern? And I know there's case law in Canada. It's like, you have no reason to have a knife that does that. And the thing is it's no coincidence that these things are sold at Home Depot. That isn't, you know, Home Depot isn't in the business of selling weapons. That's not really what they're into. But if you are halfway up a ladder and you suddenly realize you need a knife for something, you've got your 3 points of contact, arm, leg. That leaves one happy limb to do whatever you're doing with. And so you could pull this off your belt and open it one-handed. And that's why that, you know, it's not because this is designed for combat. It's because this is designed to be handy. All of this, I think we need to revise and redo and rethink. It's crazy the way our sort of law has, and a lot of it was built apparently for the purpose of sort of annoying people and kind of harassing them. There's so many different steps and so many different, requirements and paperwork and so forth. And it's just silly, a lot of this stuff. So we can really cut down, I think, a lot of the bureaucracy and not lose not lose any safety in any of this. This is the other thing, is that most of these rules have no safety value to them. You know, people are like, what happens if we legalize nunchucks? Well, of all the weapons I could be attacked with, like if I'm going to get attacked by somebody with a weapon, I'm like, nunchucks are a pretty good choice for what I would put in their hand. The most common person injured with nunchucks is the person holding them.
Yeah.
Oh, Like, that is the most common thing. But really what we've done is like, the people who get arrested for that aren't generally like criminals. It's martial artists and like nerds, people who are just like, this is cool. This is, so it's frustrating. I would love to see all of this kind of wound down and simplified. I have this niche as a firearm lawyer because there is so much weird complexity to our laws. You shouldn't need me. I shouldn't exist. It shouldn't, like, I got into being a firearms lawyer because I decided I liked target shooting in law school and then wanted to be sure that I could follow the law. So I read the law on it. And it was such a disaster that I was like, ooh, this is fun. But fun for a lawyer is not fun for the average person. And it shouldn't be the case that I have other lawyers who come to me and they're like, hey, have I got this right about the law? And it's like, not even a little bit. It's so confusing that I have to explain to lawyers who've been practicing criminal law for like 30 years that there is some nasty little intricacy to our law. Clean out all those like weird intricacies and weird corner cases and weird like edge bizarreness and just have it be simple. And it's not that hard. It just requires that we essentially cut out the firearm stuff and replace it. Airsoft right now, which airsoft only exists because of an accidental loophole that they keep trying to close, but because of an accidental loophole, and it's ridiculously silly. We should just say, like, okay, maybe we don't have to treat like pellet guns and airsoft guns like sort of, like firearms, because they're not. And it results in some really weird cases. It's illegal to discharge a firearm at an occupied dwelling house with like serious penalties, like mandatory minimums. Well, and that makes sense if you're thinking about somebody shooting a house with, with a 9mm or with a hunting rifle or whatever else. It doesn't make as much sense when you're talking about somebody using an airsoft gun. I did a video. I was just out and about, and I was just shopping at the pet store. And somebody online was like, bet you can't find a gun at the pet store. So I bought a Nerf dog ball launcher. And that is, under Canadian law, after I did the testing, that is a firearm. It's not a firearm you need a license for, but it's a firearm. And you can theoretically go to jail for owning it. If you are a person who's under a gun ban, because say you dealt drugs 10 years ago, and you buy this dog ball launcher, the law will treat it about the same as if you bought an AK-47. And I'm thinking, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe the dog ball launcher should not be our, it shouldn't make the cut as a gun, right? None of this makes any sense.
I got a legitimate question. I'm really curious on this. Is there any other area in law that has like gotcha laws, like the firearms laws? That's how I kind of classify what you're describing as gotcha laws.
They've put some of that in. I mean, I just do criminal law, so I couldn't tell you about family law or anything like that. But they put some of that in for like impaired driving. You can thank our current government for that, because now it's illegal to get drunk after driving home, which most people think is crazy. But there is a defense, but it's an expensive defense.
Please explain. You cannot get drunk after you drove
I think they can
home.
test you up to 3 hours after driving or something.
The law says it is illegal to be drunk within, I think it's 2 hours from after driving a motor vehicle. So in theory, if you drive home from work and then bust out my favorite prop, which is this Albertan 4-liter jug of vodka, and you decide to put as much damage into this as you can,
While you're
And-
having dinner, pretty damn normal. It's Friday night.
I mean, even if you're not having dinner, you're just like, I had
No
the
glass.
worst day ever, right? You just pour yourself a water glass full of vodka, you chug it down.
No glass, Ian.
No glass.
Straight-
You're just drinking
straight from the jug.
You know, so
Look,
you
look,
just
look, look.
like, oh yeah, that oof.
Hits the spot.
But you know, then the police show up at your door and you stupidly open it and they're like, we want you to blow into this, and you blow way over. There is a defense. You can say there's the defense that I didn't know I was going to have to blow and I got drunk after driving. The problem is that defense requires you to hire an expert. You're going to have to hire a toxicologist to read back your blood alcohol. And that's incredibly expensive. That's, I think 10 grand is probably a good starting point. And so you have to drop like $10,000 to prove, and you still might not do it. So that is kind of a trap, right? And people are like, what do you do about this? It's like, well, if you are at home,
Don't open the door.
Absolutely should not open the door for police. And people go, wait a minute, but I like the police. And I'm like, great, that is nice. But the law says that you have to treat them like the enemy. It just makes no sense the way we do all of this stuff. And I would like to get rid of all of that crazy, those crazy snares. Firearms storage, like the question of what is a safe has been a question that has had to have multiple court cases arguing it. So earlier he's like, this is a cabinet, not a safe. Well, we've got the case of Barnes out of Ontario that said, hey, a safe is 6 metal sides and a lock. He was using old school lockers, and they said that was a safe. Cool. That case was upheld here in Alberta. I'm not going, and that was me running that. The Crown prosecutor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I did not know that part. Okay.
I'm not going to name the case because I don't really have to here. But what is it? Somebody had built a metal box, welded this box, and had a giant padlock on it. And when the police came for reasons, they ended up going and they had to cut into this thing to get into it. And the prosecutor's theory is that it was improperly stored because it was
easily broken into.
Well, because it was not a safe. And so I was like, well, here's the case law on what a safe is. And the judge was like, yep, that's a safe. So that we're not convicted like that. Those charges are out. So, but I mean, people should be able to know what these things are. It's, it's crazy. How do people follow laws that are unclear even to our, judiciary, even to whatever? There's always going to be weird edge cases, but there should be, there should be some clarity to it. Wait, so is the Canadian Tire Yukon Gear gun cabinet a safe? I'm not going to make a legal determination for for individual specific things, because you probably need we're sort of venturing into the whole legal advice area, which we don't want to do. That'll cost you. But I can say that the Barnes case looked at school lockers that had some reinforcement but not a whole lot, and basically said those were that those were a safe. The thing is that ultimately a court could decide differently for your safe, right? And your safe might be better than the safe in Barnes. And they could say, well, we don't think that's a safe. The court could change its mind. And the other thing is when the court changes its mind, they do so kind of retroactively. And what I mean by that is that they decide that that is what the law always was when they change their mind.
And they override the previous decision in a sense.
Yeah. So they basically say the previous interpretation was not correct, and therefore all, that it's always been this way. So
yeah, what you're saying, like you're saying retroactive. So the other cases, would that like trigger an automatic appeal overturn?
No, those cases would already have been decided and they can't go back to it. But for anybody who hasn't been charged yet, they could theoretically come back to you and say, well, now you're on the hook. Because basically we don't really have a limitation period here. So all of these things are awkward and a problem. And, why can't we have things sort of cleaned up? The main thing that that Canada has that, and I know that this will be a controversial thing. There'll be some people in the gun community going, Runkle, what the heck? But, the licensing system does provide some value. And, but past that, most of what we have is just there to kind of harass and annoy gun owners. And really, a lot of that should just go away. So that is kind of the hope, is that we just have that stuff kind of, get cleaned out. And the other thing I would love to see is some revision to self-defense law. Because we have some cases in Canada that are dramatically obvious self-defense cases, and where people have still had to go through tremendous expense, and in some cases worse. So the one that every gun owner is probably familiar with is Ian Thompson, who literally people came and they were firebombing his house, and he, grabbed a handgun to defend himself, and then, but he didn't shoot anybody. He just shot into the air, and they charged him.
Yeah.
He went to trial. He was ultimately cleared. But I haven't found anybody who, when they're told the facts of that case, doesn't go, wait a minute, that is ridiculous. That is the most crazy thing. How could this possibly be the thing? But one that people are less familiar with, I covered this case in a video. There was a woman who was attacked by her boyfriend, and she manages to get his knife. Not her knife, his knife. And she stabs him in the leg. And that buys her enough space to escape. Now, when I say that the guy was attacking her, he had beaten her so badly that when she went to the neighbors, it was early October. When she went to the neighbor's house, the neighbors thought that it was a Halloween costume. And their reason why they thought it was a Halloween costume is because they didn't think any person could bleed that much.
Wow.
And so they said it had to be a Halloween costume until she explained what was going on. And they're like, yeah, let's get you inside. Let's call 911. What the hell? So 911 gets called. She gets medical attention. And they go and they find that the boyfriend has died because he got stabbed in the leg, femoral artery. He was done. She never intended to kill him. She intended to stab him to get him off of her. And what did the police do? They charged her with second-degree murder. And then she was held in custody for months before finally they released her. And the prosecutor, in dropping these charges, said that it was one of the clearest cases of self-defense. And notwithstanding that it was one of the clearest cases of self-defense, she spent months in jail. This should not happen. This is insane. And so I would love to see the laws changed, really to protect people who are law-abiding, who are forced into using force to defend themselves. And that, the young man who was charged with murder initially for killing several home invaders who came in with guns. That was all. I mean, they dropped it, but it was insane. So, yeah,
Many such cases. Yeah.
And I would love to see a process, for instance, where somebody could bring an early application to basically say this needs to get thrown out because there is a credible self-defense case. And, something like if on an early application, if you can show on a balance of probabilities that it was self-defense, like, we're not actually going to the criminal standard here. It's just an early application. But just if you can show that it's more likely than not that it was self-defense at that early stage, that you can just bring an application to throw the case out. And like you could do that in the first 2 weeks and just be like, nope, gone. Gone.
That's the thing, though. She's been held for so long, and she wasn't presumed innocent until proven guilty. In a sense, she was presumed guilty.
Well, I mean, you have a presumption of innocence, but this is the thing, is everyone always wants to crack down on bail. And the problem is that cracking down on bail, you have to sort of shape that so that you don't target people who are innocent. Ian Thompson should not have been in custody. All of these people should not have been in custody, and we really need to have a sort of system there.
Well, I think you gotta change the culture on the mentality of self-defense.
Well, and part of the problem is that who are the pool of judges? The pool of judges are lawyers. And most lawyers are so far removed from the experiences of the average person that they don't even remember what that smells like. And by the time they become judges and more senior judges, it's even worse. So what does it feel like to have to walk home late at night in a bad neighborhood? Well, your judge doesn't know. Your judge hasn't done that in 20 years or 30 years, if ever. Right? And I can tell you in law school, I was unusual because I didn't come from a poor background. My parents were tradespeople. But, sort of the talk around the law school as it got to summer was like, which country are you spending your summer in? And I'm like, I'm right here. That I got no money to go anywhere. Most, and questions like, even just things like, have you ever seen a bear in the wilderness at all? Well, no. Well, then how are you making decisions as to, whether or not it's reasonable to have a gun for predator control? There is, there's a case in Canada. It's an old case, but I think it's really kind of indicative of this because it was actually a key moment in weapons law. It deals with pocket knives. And so what happens is this guy has a knife in his pocket and he's charged with carrying a concealed weapon. And so the critical thing is this knife that he has designed for use as a weapon? And the reason why they said it was designed for use as a weapon is that it had a lock that holds it open. And so, as an example of that, we got this thing, right? This thing has a lock that holds it open. For the people who can see, you can see this little metal piece. When it opens, that little thing slides over and it blocks it from closing. Why is that important? Well, because if I accidentally do this and it has a lock, then I get to keep my fingers. Whereas if it doesn't, then it's extremely dangerous. This is, in fact, a feature that you will find. I've got another pocket knife here. This one doesn't open, with the flick, but you'll see it. It has a similar feature where it locks open. And in fact, you'll find this on just about every pocket knife sold because selling a knife without it is actually kind of dangerous. But the judge at the first, this guy's trial, determined that the only reason you could have this feature was that it would that this was for the purpose of being a weapon. The only reason you'd have that lock open is so that it wouldn't close on you when you were stabbing people. Now, I mean, none of these knives were designed for stabbing people. This is purpose-built to be useful to tradespeople, right? That's what this is for. That's why they sell it at Home Depot. So why does it have the lock open feature? Well, the judge actually, or at the Court of Appeal, and I'll just quote it here. It says, with respect, the purpose of the locking device is obvious, and particularly to anyone who uses a knife in the outdoors. It is to prevent the blade closing on the fingers of the person using it with unpleasant results. There are all sorts of circumstances in which a jackknife, when pressure is exerted on its point, will close. I shall give you 3 examples that come readily to mind. 1, if you use a knife to puncture a tin can, and you put the point of the blade against the top of the can, and holding the handle with one hand, you strike the end of the handle opposite to the blade with your hand. If the blade is not locked, it can easily close on your fingers. 2, if you are dressing, say, a deer, and working the point of the blade in between 2 vertebrae to remove the head, an unlocked blade can close. And 3, if you're drilling a hole in stirrup leather, the blade can close on your fingers. The locking device is then nothing but a valuable safety device designed for a very utilitarian and thoroughly peaceful purpose. And when the knife is in the open position, it is not essentially different from any hunting knife or a host of kitchen knives. The trial judge probably never went out into a forest, like was not an outdoors person and was like, this is super dangerous. Whereas it's clear that at least one of the judges on the appeal panel clearly has, and that's sort of evident as well in their choice of examples. When you're breaking down a deer hunting, when you're working with stirrup leather, right? This is somebody who's been outside. But for that, we could all be stuck with knives that that can't have that locking feature. This is the ultimate problem we run into, is that the reasonableness of these features and so forth is always coming down to people who just, the judges park in secure parkades. They don't even have to worry about somebody in the parking lot. It's, and they're the people who are assessing what's reasonable or not to have for self-defense. I'm going, no, we need people who are, who actually live and breathe that to make those determinations. And I will just note that we talk about diversity in the judiciary, and that's a good thing. But we only really look at diversity in the judiciary with skin tone. What we really ought to be doing as well is looking at diversity of background. We don't have enough people who have grown up hunting. We don't have enough people who've grown up poor. We don't have enough people who know what it's like to miss a meal, or, how serious it might be if you are living hand to mouth and your kids are at home and you're coming home with your tips that, that maybe you can't just go, oh, well, it's only money if I get robbed, because if it's only money, no, it's not. It's the food your kids were going to eat tonight. These kinds of things as to what is a reasonable position on defending yourself. That's what I want to see. I want to see some actual, I want to see some movement on all of this.
Yeah, beyond the Firearms Act, that's just changes in who's doing the things or who's going into this kind of thing. That's a tougher thing to take on. Valuable, but tough. I think we're seeing that in the penalties that some judges are giving out, right? Some of the penalties are correct, and some of them, I don't know, to a layperson like me, don't look correct.
That one's always tough as well, because we can't trust the news to report on legal cases. If you ever see the news talking about what gun somebody was with, and you see it's always an AR-15 or an AK-47, and you're looking at it and you're like, that is neither of those things, right? The gun or the media is no more accurate when they're talking about the law as they are when they're talking about guns. Remember that as well, because I have had cases where I got out of court. I went online. I was reading the news, just the way anyone else might after work. And I saw a case that was being reported on that day, and it didn't mention me. And I didn't recognize it, even though it was my own case.
Wow.
Because
until they mentioned
misrepresented.
Until they mentioned the name of the accused, and I went, wait a minute. But it was so badly skewed off the facts. It was a self-defense case, and they didn't mention a single element of self-defense. And so they made my client sound like a crazy person. When really it was not that. Like they made it sound like my guy just whipped out a weapon and went after somebody. And they left out that he went for a weapon second and not until he was attacked by somebody else with a weapon. So when you see some of these sentencing decisions that look crazy, you should also possibly consider that they might be misrepresented in ways to, in ways that are sort of designed to piss you off. But we do have problems. Some of this, like, there are places where I would push the sentencing up. There are places where I would push the sentencing down because I just, I don't know why some of these things are. It's, we got to sort of decide all of that because, yeah, it's, it's worth having the conversation, certainly.
Yeah, it seems like the judges don't really, judges don't get fired for putting out a bad sentence. No,
and they shouldn't ultimately.
They shouldn't
judges
get fired.
Need some...
They should be incentivized to give the correct sentence, and we should have a way of measuring whether it's the correct sentence.
I mean, that's what the appeals court is for, but what we don't want is a system where judges are incentivized to do what's popular. Because what's popular might have been convicting Mr. Thompson.
Or
that's kind of
the Cushy case, right? The Colton Bushy case.
Yep.
One?
Yep.
Yeah. I think. Well, I wasn't aware of what happened in the court case, but from the outset, it was like, oh, this guy's going to get roasted, and he got off. Right.
And I can tell you why. I mean, I've gone through the transcripts on that one.
Yeah. I watched your video, and I'm talking about it for our listeners mostly, but
yeah. I mean, that one was super unpopular with sort of the public at large. He was acquitted, but I can just tell the viewers the prosecution's own expert agreed that the defense theory of a hang fire was the only thing that actually explains the weird evidence in that case. And I could not find a single news report looking at it afterwards. I couldn't find a single news report that actually mentioned the critical piece of evidence, which was that there was a casing with a bulge in it. And, you guys, what does it mean if there's a casing, like a fired case with a bulge in the middle?
Some kind of a half in battery discharge or something along the line.
Yep. And how do you get a half in battery discharge with a Tokarev?
Can't say I've got one. My Tokarev's
Can't
running
say
great.
I've tried.
Well, they had two experts. The two experts between them could come up with one of two theories. So what theory one was that the Tokarev, which was, with the slide open, has the hammer pushed back, and somebody would have had to like reach a punch in to hit the firing pin with like a punch. Because the hammer blocks, you wouldn't be able to do it by like smacking it backwards against something. You'd have to actually have some other tool that you use to do that. And the experts were like, yeah, no, that actually wasn't possible. Or it has to be a hang fire. That's really your explanations. And so the question is the prosecution would have known that their expert, like that's where their expert was. Their expert basically said, yeah, it's extremely unlikely that you'll have a hang fire of, that duration with modern ammunition. Well, the ammunition was from like the 60s.
It's all surplus stuff. It's really hard to say.
It's
the only ammo I've ever had hang fires with is some 7.62x25 Tokarev ammo.
Yep. And the other really fun thing about that one is that the defense tried to tender a Reddit thread. And that Reddit thread was not allowed into evidence. But that Reddit, I'm pretty sure that was probably the Canada Guns subreddit discussion where people basically said, have you ever had a long hang fire? And I posted to that, and I suspect it was probably my comment that they wanted in, because I noted that I'd had like a 7-8 second. It scared the shit out of me, to be honest. But I had like a 7 or 8 second hang fire using a Tokarev with old, crappy 7.62x25 ammunition, which is exactly what was there. So when people are like, it's impossible to have a hang fire, I'm like, I literally have had that where and it was quite literally, I pulled the trigger, nothing happened. I was new to guns, so I'm sort of like looking at the gun going like, why no bang? And then it went bang. And I went, my finger was nowhere near that trigger.
Did he rack the slide back, or was the slide taken out of battery after the hang fire or like during the hang fire? Because like I'm
happened
thinking about this.
He fired repeatedly into the air.
Mm-hmm.
According to his version, which the jury seems to have accepted.
Oh, I see.
Removed the magazine and then racked the slide repeatedly. And basically there was a cartridge stuck in half, like, so that's sort of his version of events, which the jury seems to have accepted. But, even if you say that he didn't rack the slide, even if he forgot that step, it was still firing out a battery. It's that case, the only reason that case was brought was because of the public pressure.
Yeah.
Because if I was the prosecutor, I would have dropped that so hard. And like, I would have just been like, nope. We're not running this. But there was that giant public pressure. And if we had a measure to punish judges for decisions we thought were wrong, then they might have gotten their conviction. So I always want to be cautious whenever people are like, we need to change how this goes, because I'm like, be careful what you ask for. It could, and gun owners are not popular. We are like
the minority in Canada.
Gun owners talk to other gun owners, but what we don't talk to is people who hate guns. And so, let's consider a worst case scenario. You're sitting there, you're out hunting, and you're out hunting with something that has like scary black furniture on it. And somebody wants to interfere with your hunt and comes running out and yells, "Don't shoot that deer," just as your finger is already squeezing the trigger, and they just like jump out in front of you, so that, and you didn't know that they were about to do that, and so you shot them, right? This should be a clear acquittal, right? A situation where you didn't mean to shoot them. The only reason you weren't doing anything unsafe, the only reason you shot this person is because they literally jumped in front of your gun, right? Out of some whatever notion. The practical thing, though, is that if they brought that into a jury, they might be like, well, here's this trophy hunter, because that's how they'll describe you. I don't care how much of that animal you were planning to eat. I don't care that it was like a doe with not a single point on its head. They'll be like, this trophy hunter with this scary looking black gun.
This machine gun.
Public hates you, right? So,
high caliber military style machine gun.
Yeah, why did you need a sniper rifle to hunt this deer, right? Oh, that reminds me, I need to do a video with my fractured. Adriel saw the fracture on my scope, on my scope rings.
Oh, what? Because you shot your 300 Norma.
No, this is not the 300 Norma. This is what do you call it? My 270.
His TK.
Oh,
I don't know.
The Browning?
Yep.
Browning, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the Browning X-Bolt. I don't know how the scope rings got cracked, but they're cracked. And so I've been meaning to take it to the range and do a video of just like, here's the crack. Let's see how many shots it takes for this to fail or for this to, what do you call it?
Lose zero?
Know, yeah.
You should use the patented Florida electric tape scope rings. They hold zero very well.
Was that where that shooter was in Florida? Was that in Florida?
Well,
yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was in
golfing,
Florida, right? Yeah, golfing.
That Trump shooter that
on SKS too. It was great.
Had the electrical tape on his SKS. Cool.
I also am tempted to try that just because we know the SKS, like every attempt to put a scope on an SKS does not work very well. But yeah, the guy with like the plumbing clamps or like the hose clamp, he duct and the electrical tape. I'm like, yeah, that's a whole approach.
Might be the best.
Brandon Herrera did a video.
Yeah,
and he had a similar setup, and it was surprisingly at close range fine. Not a long range, no, but at close range, it's on steel.
And I mean, the thing is ultimately, if you're shooting at close range, the irons work just fine.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And they're really all you need on SKS. Anyways, we're going way off the trails here.
We do have a bonus
that's
question.
my brand.
Yeah, that's our brand too. Any other ideas on rewriting the Firearms Act? So we got like, simplified classification, the ninja
changes
weapons,
to self-defense if possible.
Ninja weapons, self-defense, changes to like search
suppressors,
and
maybe suppressors, please.
Suppressors, I would definitely like the whole. I will go on a slight rant about this because this whole notion of like, criminals using suppressors, what we see in Canada is actually criminals wanting the shortest, tiniest little handguns they can get. Why? Because they've got them stuffed down the front of their pants, and the worst thing that can happen for them is that somebody sees it. The last thing they want to do is add another 4 inches of distance because then somebody's gonna and if you're using front of the pants, holstering, then like that really, really messes up with your draw. And the other thing suppressors do is they get really, really hot. And so if they pull one out and shoot, and then they go back for the front of the pants holster maneuver, you might end up with some cooked sausage.
His pants is on fire.
But Ian, you got to think about the healthcare CEOs, the people who are making the big bucks. We got to protect the most vulnerable of our population.
The thing is that anybody who wants to take that, like anybody who's planning something out like that, it's not hard to get a suppressor. At least one that is
he printed
basic.
His own. Yeah, so
you can like in the modern era they could be 3D printed. In the modern era they could be made out of stupid things. They're not hard to. It's not hard to make a suppressor that works to sufficiently. That's the thing is, like at SHOT Show, we're going to see all the brands touting their suppressors, and they're going to be fighting over 1 to 4 decibels, right? That's going to be their thing. And the thing is you probably can get within 10 decibels of the best suppressor on the market with something you made out of like crap from Home Depot or just that you found in like a garbage can somewhere.
Yeah.
It's, so, and the main like advantage if you're using them for like an assassination of a suppressor isn't that they're super quiet, because they're still loud enough that they're going to be heard from a fair bit. It's that maybe, maybe the person who hears it doesn't know what it is right away. And that's the thing is, like, with the whole the CEO killing, they still got calls, not just from the person who was right there and saw it, but also from people who were nearby who were like, I heard something. And, there were plenty of ear witnesses to that shooting. It's just a matter of, Carrie, I am really...
Runkle has a comment on that.
I want to reach out to them. I want to see if I can convince them to sell me one. Because I can buy suppressors, and I would love to test out that. But I mean, the other weird thing is, and I'm planning a whole video on this, is just the question of whether certain other things count as suppressors. Sometimes, like, there are many people who've reached out to me because they want to shoot in their backyard. And they've got, like, they've got a couple acres out in the middle of nowhere, but they would like to shoot like a 22 or, 9mm or a 30-30, something that's not huge. And so what they do is they build this improvised device, which is just like 10 tires in a row, edge to edge.
Like,
and then the question,
external sound deadening thing, like
shooting, and then they just lean and shoot
rig.
through it, right? And the question is that a suppressor in Canadian law? I would love to find out. And, testing, like, I would love to do some testing and just be like, how much does this actually work? Because a whole bunch of people say it works, but until I get my manufacturing license, I can't actually go and stack tires next to each other. But I don't think anybody thinks that there are like 10 tires being used by criminals. Could you imagine that prep? Hey, I'm going to go kill like my rival dealer Spider. And so what I'm going to do is, as he's there dealing, I'm going to set up a table. I'm going to stack tires on it while he looks on it in confusion. And then I'm going to lean into that. And I'm going to hope that he hasn't moved such that the tires are aimed at him. And if they, if he has moved, I'll be like, hey, can you like 5 feet over to the left, dude? Or else, you're sitting there moving this table that's covered with tires, and then you're going to take a shot at this guy and like, no one is going to notice you doing this, or like a drive-by at somebody's house. You're going to like have a separate trailer with this structure on it. You're going to like roll up, shoot through that, and then drive. Like, this is ridiculous. The only thing that this does is the guy who's shooting on his property legally, he doesn't piss his neighbors off, right? Maybe his neighbors are like, yeah, it's not such a big deal if he's running his 22 through this thing because now we can barely hear it and we're okay with that. Why? So
I've seen some ranges have these things too. It's like, what suppressor? The whole range is a suppressor.
Well, and that's the other thing is what happens if you build your, the indoor range at, we've got an indoor range at West Edmonton Mall.
That's a suppressor.
How much gunfire do you hear like at West Edmonton Mall? Not usually. When you do, it's people outside the range having other issues. But is that range a suppressor? Because it is like a construction designed to, I'm sure they put dampening the sound into their planning. Like, and, I go hunting. One of the things when you're out hunting is you really want to hear the animals. Because if there is a deer moving through the brush, it's great if you can hear that before you can see it. Because then you can be sitting there like lined up, waiting. It steps out, you take a shot. And that can be a real quiet sound. It might be like footsteps on snow, where it's just kind of breaking through the snow, through a crust on the snow. So you don't want to wear hearing protection, but you also don't want to be the guy who in his 50s is going, exactly, right? I've seen people at the range who are just like, I don't bother with hearing protection anymore because I don't have any hearing. And it's like, oh,
Bad
okay.
attitude.
Yeah, it's
That's what I say. I get earplugs in.
But I mean, if all we're doing is injuring people's hearing, is that really like a benefit to anybody? Why shouldn't you be able to like to do that, to have a suppressor in order to better like protect your hearing while you're hunting? I don't see the value in destroying people's hearing, right? It's
So suppressors, yeah, we'll get those.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't know. There's a whole bunch. Our restrictive laws sort of prevent innovation and also require innovation into like stupid things, because there's a whole bunch of guns that only exist because Canada has been dumb.
The WKs, for example, we have to fall back on a platform that's not as proven as the AR-15, for example.
Kind of. Tony, if you look at a lot of the new guns, a lot of them are AR-18s. They're all AR-18s, new AR-18s. Are they as good? Well, no, but that's like a manufacturing problem, not a. I think if Canada had some companies that put like a lot of effort towards it, we would make some good ones, because the platform itself is fine,
but still not as cheap.
No, not as cheap,
and it's not as reliable. It's not as any of these
not as
things.
Reliable, not as flexible, not as extensible, not as many parts available.
Not as widely supported, not as common.
And I mean, you can get an AR-15 in all sorts of chamberings, and like, an AR-15 in 243 is not a bad choice for let's go get some deer, right? It's I was talking to somebody who'd been hunting their first time, and they shot a deer and it went down, and then it got back up, and they shot it again. And it's like, why would you ever need well, because maybe you got to shoot it again so it doesn't go running and so it doesn't suffer. Like, all of these people who've never been hunting and have no clue on it are just like, why would you ever need this? It's like, well, because you do. It's like, and they didn't shoot it with like something tiny either. That was with a 308. So, yeah. So, frustrations.
But yeah, I found since my firearm journey, it's just the law is never that clear. And I think we had a discussion last week. It's like the lawmaker says we don't want to make it clear because we don't want to create loopholes. So it's trying to tell us, okay, the speed limit is around 80, but depends on which day and how we're feeling about it. It might be 90 or it could be 60. We don't know what's the margin of error there, so the speed limit is around 80.
Yeah, it's a problem when they keep sort of changing the rules, because they said like we're only banning certain guns. You can still do your sports, you'll just buy different guns. So what did we do? We listened. We all bought different guns. And then they banned those too. And it's really clear, because they're like, those bad people are still doing their sports. So the promise of but the other thing is, the average police officer shouldn't be required to have to tell the difference between an AR-15 and, any of these other like guns that look similar, which is everything, because why do they have these designs? Well, a lot of it is because it's useful design in the modern era, right? It's like, oh, well, why would you have a collapsible stock? Because a collapsible stock is awesome. Why would you have any of these things? Like, how nice it is if you're out shooting with multiple people to have a stock where you can just be like, yep, this is set that is nice for me. And then I hand it off to somebody and they can be like, yep, no, I need a little, I think it's a little more comfortable with another half inch.
Mm-hmm.
that's lovely. But people freak out about like, oh, your gun is black and it's got like, scary looking rails. The reason why the rails are that shape is because it's good for locking, optics on. That's it.
And lasers that make the gun more accurate.
Oh God. I mean,
adds +5 to the accuracy when hip fired. I've been playing too much games. Too much Tarkov.
Kiri says that convention design. It's all the modern sporting rifles look the same. They take the same furniture because that's cheap and it's well established.
They all eventually turn into a crab.
We're still on that. That's funny.
Well, and it's just, it makes sense to like people make their products to fit on the most popular guns. And then, once there's like a huge number of like accessories for that gun, somebody who's making a different gun wants to make it so that those accessories all work with it, because that's great marketing too. So, I mean,
except for
right now, if you're making a new
manufacturers,
gun,
I guess.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, if your new gun takes AR mags, then everybody's already got a ton of them, or Glock mags. Why does everything take Glock mags? Well, because it's a great marketing point, as opposed to, hey, you can buy my $80 proprietary mag that jams more.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bonus question for Runkle. Is there a portion? Well, I believe there's a portion of C21 that says you cannot lower the classification of a firearm with an OIC. Is that specific clause itself vulnerable to be altered or deleted with another OIC?
That can't be removed with an OIC. That would have to be through a legislative change. But you can OIC away an existing OIC. So, but the reason why that was initially like that was put in, the lowering of things was put in so that you could say, okay, notwithstanding the fact that this firearm is technically in violation or technically has features that would make it, a higher classification, that it could be declared a lower classification. And there's places where this might make sense. For instance, like, let's say they keep the, like, if the, if the bore diameter is too high, or the, or the muzzle velocity is too high. Well, theoretically, they could look at that and go, well, okay, but this old and like these custom made guns that are $100,000 each that are like safari guns, that wasn't what we were trying to capture. We're going to put those back down to non-restricted. But it was really aimed at like the classic green and that kind of thing, because people bought them, legitimately expecting that they were going to stay non-restricted. And then they're like, nope, our bad. We classified them wrong. So, but yeah, I mean, like the new things like the GSG, that could be unprohibited via an order in council at the moment. But some of the other stuff was written into the legislation, and so that would have to be unprohibited via not an order in council, but actually legislative change. So,
2020 and 2024 OICs can be undone by another OIC.
But the stuff that went into the
handguns freeze would not. Got it.
Yeah, and I mean, really, we shouldn't have to check a list of thousands of guns just to see what they, what the classification is. In an ideal world, it should be really simple to tell the classification.
Meter stick. Here's your restricted meter stick. You go onto the gun and you do this.
I mean, theoretically, it could just be as simple as your tape, like your police issue tape measure has a couple of marks on it.
Yeah. Something like that. But from my experience, my personal experience is officers often enough don't know that much about guns. I was out in Crown Land shooting my bolt action 223, the one Adriel is holding right now. And they came up to me and they asked, "What size magazine are you using?" I was like, "Does it really matter?" I didn't want to be antagonizing, so I just said 5 and 10 round magazines. But it's like, it's a bolt action. Do you really care?
It's
Things
I
like
mean,
that.
I've had cases where somebody had a bolt action, like a magazine that is a specific magazine that only fits in, like it's one of those proprietary $100 magazines
Like the
that
MRX.
only fits one specific rifle, and they managed to fit 8 rounds of 223 into it. Now you might be saying, okay, well, now here's the thing. First, it's not for a rifle that is chambered in 223. So it doesn't really matter how many 223s they fit into it, but that's what they had on hand. And second, it's the gun it fits in. The only gun on the planet that this particular magazine fits in is a bolt action firearm. So it can hold as many as you feel like. And, you know, that got held up at customs. I had to write letters and all of this and basically write this treatise on how this thing is properly. It's like, come on. The magazine limits are just kind of dumb, ultimately, but
It's
we can
not
get
really
rid of those.
stopping any crimes.
It isn't. The criminals, and I mean, it's getting easier and easier to 3D print magazines, but eventually we're going to find, like, as 3D printer quality goes up, we're going to find people who are just 3D printing the whole firearm for a good enough gun out of nothing that is controlled. And that'll be an interesting time. Especially, good enough for like criminals is being able to shoot somebody across the street. So, and to get through like 2 mags. But like if they get through 2 mags and then they got to throw it out.
One mag.
Here's
That's all I need.
another rabbit hole. Sorry, Runkle, but can they ban knowledge?
How do you mean ban knowledge? Like
As
from
in, for example, my best example, what I want is the book from P.A. Ludi, Expedient Homemade Firearm, as a printed copy. Do they want to burn my book?
So in theory, they could ban that specific book. There would immediately be a challenge on charter grounds. And so the question would be whether or not the ban on that specific book was a violation of your right to freedom of expression based on that. And ultimately, I don't know, because there are some forms of information that they do ban. Like if you wrote a book about abusing children, saying how great it was, that would be covered under our, like, that is banned. If you have there is some prior precedent, but I don't think that the social interest in that is equivalent. But I mean, that could change. The courts could be like, yeah, no, we think that this book on that. And I suspect that the court will uphold the ban on 3D printing data. Because right now, if you possess data to present or print firearms, they're like, that's illegal information. So long as it's, there's all sorts of criteria for it. But yeah.
It's a little crazy in my mind because effectively you're banning knowledge. What if my brain can just recite that whole book, so you have to chop my head off?
Also, well, it would never be that they could never prevent like knowledge in your head. But I can also say, having shot a lootie, you do not want a lootie, man.
Right. No. So I was about to respond to Carrie's comment. Once 3D printer will be less work than lootie. My entire point is I have freaking legal guns. Lootie is a terrible gun. I don't need a lootie, but it's just coming, especially from my background. If my government want to burn my book, I kind of take a little particular interest in that. And so I want that book as a statement, not as a thing to read or reference off of. There are tons of digital copy of it, but it's just out of print for so long. I just want it as kind of a souvenir. Just so you know. I
Cool.
think that covers everything for...
I think we've got it covered, yeah.
Yeah. The Ludi is the worst gun you will ever shoot.
Maybe. What if it doesn't cut me like all the Chinese guns try to?
Oh, it'll cut you. It cut the hell out of me when I shot it. So, it was the Ludi at the bottom, then the SS-211 was
What the...
Also not great. Yeah.
you mean
shot
the ranking?
Yeah.
But that video is top notch, though.
Oh, I mean,
We worked together on that one, right? Right?
Yeah.
That's how I found out both of your channels. I forgot who I subscribed to first, but that was a crossover. It's a good one.
I mean, there's a lovely thumbnail of me shooting this thing with like this big fireball. But there was a point in the day where I'd shot it and I was just like, I don't want to shoot this again. And it was like, me either, from Adriel was like, yeah, okay. Let's
It's so bad.
Let's go shoot real guns instead.
It's fun as a toy, but it's really not a good shooter.
I could see like a use case of like carrying it on a quad for bears or something. But
yeah.
the thing is, if a bear was charging me and I pulled that out, I'd hesitate as to which was worse.
More painful, yeah.
Like, maybe I'll just go with the bear. That's yeah, the SS-211 is why women choose the bear.
Like you're saying, people are so worried about 3D printing, but zero people seem to be concerned that you can just buy a lathe. Again, knowledge, right? I guess 3D printer is a little easier. You don't have to.
A lot more people make guns on a 3D printer than do on lathe.
And it's a lot easier to make it on a 3D printer than it is to learn how to use a mill and lathe.
Yeah. And the other thing is the mill and lathe themselves cost a ton of money.
They're getting cheaper. You can get little mini ones for your house. Oh yeah, way cheaper.
But at the same time, they're still expensive. And when they seize somebody's mill and lathe, which has happened a few times, they have had little operations where they seize somebody's mill and lathe. But that's like, 10 grand worth of machinery, and you can't just like get out of jail and immediately start up on another 10 grand worth of machinery project.
Yeah.
It's just not how. So,
yeah.
I get it, but it's like the same thing as like the photocopier is a much more powerful tool than the like Gutenberg printing press ever was.
That's fair. Let's go to listener feedback. We actually have, surprisingly, 2 emails today. First one is from Cole. Hi, Slamfire. I'm looking for some advices on stage design as I will be making up some stages for my local 3-gun matches in the spring. Given that centerfire semi-automatic rifle are all but all gone, especially the PCCs, what modification to the stages design would you suggest so that everyone still have fun? I'm thinking stages would need to be catered to at worst someone only having a 10-22 and a shotgun available. It's hard to think stages that could accommodate both shooters who are having pistol, shotgun, full-size rifle, and other shooters who only have a shotgun and a non-PCC rifle of some kind.
Yep.
As always, thank you for entertaining and informative content.
So we've been talking on. I'm not going to show like exactly what we're thinking. My local 3-gun club, just because they still have to finalize things, but they were thinking of Clipazine is a division that we had before. So a bunch of people got their ARs banned in 2020. And we said, okay, great, Clipazine. You want to run your SKS, M1 Garand, whatever. A clip-fed semi-auto or a magazine-fed bolt action. You're in Clipazine. And that's actually, I like that division. I've shot it a couple times with my M1 Garand. There's a couple of guys who shoot it with M1 Garands, Renegades, Mavericks, all that kind of stuff. It all goes into that Clipazine.
I might shoot it extremely badly with a Lee Enfield.
Yeah, you could shoot with Lee Enfield.
Fun, though.
That's not the worst gun you can fire in Clipazine because 10-round mag, the strip clips work for it okay, And the action on a Lee Enfield is fast. It's not the worst gun. It's far from the best gun, but it's not the worst.
Say.
Within Clipazine, you can use rifle, shotgun. I believe that that it may be that pistol's optional for that one. No, wait. No,
I don't
sorry,
think
no,
so,
no,
no.
no, not for that one.
Pistol optional.
We'll have a PCC. It may be a PCC open combined division because there's so few of them, and it might just be like, you guys all get into the same division. In that division, if you're running a PCC, you might be able to run your PCC for your pistol and shoot the pistol targets with your PCC. We're thinking rimfire as well, mini rifle. So in rimfire, use a rimfire rifle close in. So coming back to the question, stage design. You need to make it so that you don't. So your targets, if you shoot them with a PCC, are they going to be okay? They should be. PCC is like faster than a pistol, but it's not like that much more abusive. So consider that. So you want your steel targets for your pistol targets at least 10 meters. You don't want anything closer. You're going to get frag off of them. And your rifle targets for your Clipazine guys and all that kind of stuff, 100 meters for steel. For paper, you can put them anywhere you want to, right? And then consider that, okay, some people who have their pistol are going to who might want to do this. Some people who don't have the pistol will do that. If you give them paper targets and you just leave it open, they'll do all sorts of interesting things. I think that there's room for it.
Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to add to it, but from my limited experience shooting like rifle PCC mini rifle matches at BTSA, is the major thing is steel, because you can't be shooting pistol steel with rifles. So then you got to think about, if you're shooting full power rifle, you're getting close to, it's mandatory to have a pistol if you have a lot of steel targets close up. Yeah. But for 22s, you can run it like a PCC, as in rifle is the rifle and the pistol, or some other way. You'll probably still see a few.
And with the 22 rifle, you might have to call hits on some of your targets. They might not, the steel might not fall. Some of your plate racks and even the falling steel might not fall if you shoot with 22.
Depends on.
So you might just have to call it. You can hear it though. Bink.
Yeah.
Like the 22s are so quiet, you can hear it, and you just call hits for them on those. It's going to be a weird year. Don't worry about it. Just like my recommendation, make as inclusive as divisions as you can so that everyone can go out and shoot. Don't worry so much about the competitive equity and that kind of thing. This is all temporary, and there's really no sense like struggling over divisions and try to figure out how to make it the most equitable when it's a super temporary thing.
It's gonna be.
Let's just have fun. Let's have fun for a year.
So this is where, in my opinion, like I'll give my take on this as well. I agree. It's all stage design, and yeah, you make your divisions, but this is actually a really good case for the way UML was doing their rules. So basically, your close-up steel is shotgun pistol option. Your paper is pistol rifle shotgun slug option. Your long-distance steel, okay. When I first read the email, okay, you're not doing long-range steel. Or you have specific targets set up for your rimfire guys, and then specific targets set up for your centerfire guys for your longer-range steel.
Oh, well, sorry, not to interrupt, Kyle. I just want to mention one thing. This year, I don't think anyone's going long distance.
Yep. And that's fine. You can still have fun stages without.
Even the Clipazine, like 150. Don't go too far. Some people might have a Ruger American. Some people might be rocking an SKS. So the steel's going to be like 100 to 150. Yeah. You wouldn't want to go too far with it.
I wouldn't worry about doing the distance.
Well, the nice thing about keeping it in 150 is that you can expect the PCC guys to shoot it too.
Yep.
Oh, it's 150. You can do that with a PCC. Yeah, it's hard, but who cares? Deal with it. The PCC guys, like, I think you could ram them in the same division as open guys, and as long as you keep the distance, because like I don't think there's going to be enough people out there with cryptos to worry about making a competitive division for those guys, right? You might as well just
I
stick with
think
PCC.
I think very much it's going to be a fun year, just because at this point it's kind of a crazy gear race of what is not banned, and luckily either you have money or luckily have one that's not banned.
Actually, I think at this point it's no longer a gear race.
I mean, it's a stupid gear race. It's like,
it's a stupid gear race, but it's a
did
gear race.
did you buy an SKS before the prices on those went insane?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like
that's true.
And like, when was SKS a thing on a gear race ever? Like, you know,
I still think it's
back
not,
in the
though.
1940s, it was on top of the gear race against the Germans. We're trying to defend the motherland, and we need a self-loading rifle.
I think the crypto is probably the best gear rifle
R9.
to get right now.
Yeah.
The R9, but
now you're in PCC. Your PCC over.
Well, there's not a lot of other PCC options.
No, but
there.
you're talking putting your PCC in with the rifle, right?
But you are winning the PCC
because there's
division.
so few. There's so
no,
few
I understand. Yeah.
Who's going to run open right now? What's your open rifle right now?
Anything that you put
crypto.
2 optics on.
Crypto,
and there are no semi-auto centerfires that are a 223 other than the ones that don't have an FRT.
Yeah,
which is the crypto and the R9 on the PCC side, or the Homesteader or the M19, but neither of those are going to be as good as the R9 or the crypto. Yeah. But
so the gear sucks, but I think if you went to a UML style where it was just nothing but option targets, then you have a really interesting year on seeing what you come up with for stage plans.
I think it would be fun too. It's a fun year. It's not a competitive year. We're gonna have some fun. I think that's the goal we should set out, and that's what we should do.
Don't put out big prizes. Because if you have big prizes, you'll have people fighting over the big prizes.
Oh no!
But
we do it
random draw.
Yeah, just not big prizes for
not positional.
Yeah. We never do those. I think it'd be
some
fun.
people do, and it's always a bad idea, I think. But it's an even worse idea right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With how weird our gear is in Canada, I'll give you an example. The 3-inch chamber shotguns. Do you go off SAMI or do you go off like a typical 3-inch?
CIP.
Because then you have a different tube.
I'd actually like to hear the lawyer's take on that.
It's not. There is no case law on it. There's no case law on it, and the actual legalese of it is way too general.
That's kind of the problem.
Yeah,
I know at a national competition. Now I know that doesn't hold much ground, but a national competition they use SAMI spec for a rolled crimp shell.
Rolled crimp, not star crimp. Interesting.
No, because that's a longer shell.
Gives you more capacity, which probably puts you at what, 7 in the tube
on a 3-inch.
On a 3-inch, yeah. Whereas on my 3.5, it's 7. Unless I go Sam. I don't even think Sammy makes a difference on 3.5. Anyways, we're digressing here. Cole, design it so that people can shoot it without a pistol, which means paper targets, lots of paper targets, some steel targets close in if they're going to be shooting a PCC or 22 or a pistol.
Or shotgun.
And some long range stuff. Or shotgun. Yeah, shotgun can do it too.
Pistol caliber shotgun. Yeah.
And just don't worry so much about the competitive equity. Just say, like, these targets are good for this. These targets are good for this. There's some dump sleds. Have at it. And you have to do it safely. And that shit, I like that anyways. I like those freestyle stages that you're allowed to do, like, whatever you're...
Well, it makes it real interesting.
Yeah. It makes it interesting. And it makes it... I think this year, when we go shoot one of these stages, is going to be like, that guy, with a pistol, you can do this. And, this guy saved like 10 seconds because he was able to do this. Like, that's going to be really interesting this year. I'm not going to be too butthurt about it, too, because it's like, it's totally random, right? Some people will have a crypto. Some people have an M1 Garand. Some people have the TM22 with the big mags, and they're going to be ideal for the division. And I can't be bothered to care.
I still need to get my absolute cheater thing set up, which is the
The
Luger with the snail
Luger.
mag.
The big old mag.
It's in the
I want
mail.
You to bring it out. I want you to bring it out.
Oh,
If you get it, I want you to bring it out. I want you to shoot a 3-gun match with it. I don't think it's going to be competitive. I think it's
I
going
don't
to jam.
think it will either.
It will be in the PCC division.
I'm gonna try to run it. I'm gonna try to get it and see if it can. It's only PCC if I attach the stock.
Right, but that'll be more fun.
Maybe. But I do want to try to run it just as a handgun. They'll be like, load and make ready. And I'll be like, no. Why? This has got to go in the holster. I am not loading. I'm not.
I'll do it on the clock.
Exactly. I'll do it on the clock and I'll skip all the rest of the reloading on the clock.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun year.
Cool. Second email from Benny. Hey, Slamfire crew, please excuse the talk to text. It's been great hearing you guys discussing the current events in Canadian firearms space. It's been a couple of times that I've heard you guys discuss or wish for suppressors to become legal in Canada. I feel it, Adriel, help. The word pertinent to remind the host and the listeners that there was a petition sent to the government. Yes, it was Liberal at the time, requesting just that. I think that didn't happen. I think it was quite a few times. Sound moderators, always a topic.
Matt,
The thing is,
we had him on as
not useful.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Yeah.
You need to put pressure on your MP.
I wonder if we could bring this up to our MPs or whomever, showing that there is a large support for such an amendment to the criminal code, and that, to be honest, the government response of it has it's been the law like this for the past X amount of years is not a justification for a law being on the books, particularly with all the supporting documentation in the petition. It was great helping you, Adriel, on Sunday. I know at least one of the hosts isn't afraid to come and ask me for help. Tony. I miss shooting with you, Random Dave. Maybe you and Kelly can visit the next time you're in Alberta. Still need to meet Dustin, Kyle, and Tony to say I've met you all. Former host of New Shooters Canada, Benny. Benny, I visit Cabela's at a pretty particular time. It's a random weekday after 5:30 p.m. ish. I tried to look for you. I didn't see you last time. We'll see you when I go in and reject my Savage 110. Awkward.
Go in on a higher note than that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll pick myself some hunting boots up or something. And let's see, YouTube comments. I haven't even pulled these.
Well, we got yeeted off of YouTube real fast. So
from last week's episode.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
Take a look.
There's a few of them there.
There's a few of them. CCFR saying Sharon Gentleman. That's nice. I feel CCFR is watching quite a bit these days. Okay, Kilroy 614. Gentlemen, as fascinating as Tony's culinary talent may be, this is Slamfire Radio, not CV Radio. Stay on target. I do have... well, Eddie gave a defense. If you've been following Slamfire Radio long enough, you will come to expect squirrel moments like this. Kilroy, I had a formal response for this, and I thought I will put it on radio. This is all about game cooking, so I think it's somewhat related to your food safety after you've done your hunting, and that's kind of how the whole rabbit hole started. Is game cooking, and I was watching again Too Much Meat Eater, and trichinosis in bear is a concern, so heat your food appropriately.
Also, if you have a good thick-walled, if you have a good thick-walled safe, you could use that as a sous vide water bath. It probably has lots of insulation.
What?
Too much lead. Too much lead. Ian, come on.
What's going on? I'm really confused. Motor Teeth says, check out the new Henry lever action Supreme rifle. It looks like a good one, although the initial report hasn't been too promising. I bet Adriel and Kyle will be seeing that. 007 Cantos. Wow, we have quite a few new commenters this week. It is a pain that in Nova Scotia you must belong to a range to own a restrictor. I believe it was a rule like across the country for the longest time, and then got struck down in Ontario first.
It was policy, but the policy doesn't make any sense, and so it's been fought in various places. It's not actually in the law. It's there, but their principle is you can't shoot it anywhere but a range, and therefore you have to be a range member. But the problem is there's several ranges in Edmonton where I can go and shoot a restricted without being a member. It's expensive, but you can do it. So if you have ranges like that, then you're probably, and if you're willing to fight them in court, then you could probably get that struck down.
Well, wasn't the issue in Ontario that people couldn't actually get a membership at the range because of waiting lists and whatnot?
Yeah, and then, and the other thing is, even if most ranges will allow you to bring a friend, right? So, if you can go there on a guest pass, why couldn't you just go with your buddy every time?
Things like that. It's a weird requirement, I thought. Samad 0423, welcome to Tony's TED Talk on how not to cook meat. Good, appropriate. And then we have, as promised by Eddie, 2 comments. Tony, you may need to do a tactical reload with your Savage Impulse if you're hunting blacktail deer on Queen Charlotte Island in BC. I thought that's pretty similar to Sydney Island, I think. There's a possession limit of 5, but a bag limit of 15. Whoa. And over there, bucks open in June, so deer season could be a lot sooner for you. In your dream about deer passing you, were you engaged in hunting? Yes, I was. At least that's what I dreamed of. If so, analysis of that dream may be interesting. I don't know. They're just passing by me at like uncannily close distance while I'm just standing there. So it was a whole very weird situation. Adriel, there are Starlink shot shells. I saw the Starlink satellite dishes on sale from Cabela's. So Elon Musk is now in the ammo business. Oh, okay. So he is referencing that. I believe you meant Rio Star Team Evo shot shells. Those look like international trap shells with 7/8 ounce shot at 1360 feet per second. A heavy target load. Really? You caught 7/8 ounce heavy?
It's 7/8 doing 1360.
I guess that's
the ones that I found.
Fast.
Yeah.
I won't call it heavy.
No.
Anyway, that's all the YouTube comments we have for this week. Sponsor links, we believe we'll do this every 2 months now. So we haven't seen anything yet. Thanks to our supporters on Patreon and Player. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on Player and Patreon. If you would like to email the show like Benny and Cole did, you can send them to slamfireradio@gmail.com. And we have the shout-outs and recommendations. We'll give it to Runkle first.
Runkle of the Bailey is where I'm at. That's where you can find me. I also recommend everyone else's channels because good stuff. Adriel gets to do way more reviews than I get to do because I'm always talking about legal crap. So every time I do a review, YouTube punishes me and is like, nope, that's not your usual thing. Down the algorithm you go. So
I've heard if your channel is like mixed content, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, what they do is the algorithm, if you do 2 things, then the algorithm basically only recommends you to the people who like both of those things. So, for instance, if you
So
do
you're
cooking
narrowing
content
your-
and law, they will send your stuff only to people with both of those interests, which is
It's
death.
fewer.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
How about
So
you?
yeah.
I'll recommend Runkle of the Bailey for all your legal needs. Runkle of the Bailey.
Kyle?
I'll recommend Runkle and the Bailey. It's always entertaining. Good stuff on that channel. And actually, I did have another recommendation. There is a new podcast out there on the competition shooting side. It's called On the Perf, and it's with Adam Reiser and Adam Maxwell.
Ooh,
I like that title.
Yeah. So with Dave kind of seemingly stepping back and away from Three Gun Show, some people have finally stepped up for a similar style show. They're starting off with basically has-beens trying to be beans again. So
Cool.
and they're both really great guys. They're both good competitors. So I mean, people should know Adam Maxwell. He was on Three Gun Show a lot, and Adam Reiser. He's a good shooter and he's a good guy as well. So, yeah, go check that out.
Adam Maxwell, Vortex Optics. I will recommend Runkle of the Bailey on YouTube. There's a few good ones. Like the 211 is a good one. It was pure entertainment purposes. How you would carry a pocket knife was a good one. The thumbnail was really on point on that one. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. I'll give a shout out to Scott for giving me a great discount on the quote unquote safe or cabinet, depends on how
Safe.
you want to read it.
Not quote unquote.
Safe,
It's
safe,
a safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah, by
And,
the way, if you're ever charged, your lawyer will be very annoyed if you've been saying quote unquote safe on your podcast.
I would just lock them more than I need to. I just put all the locks on it.
Just,
That defeats the point of calling it a safe.
Sure. Again, Tony being Tony, watching Too Much Meat Eater recently, and their podcast, they have a trivia one.
Oh, yeah,
called
that's good.
Game On Suckers. It was great. You can hear a lot. Sometimes it doesn't quite apply. A lot of things are like US based, but good entertainment value for sure. Join us on Discord. Watch us on Facebook, sometimes YouTube, Twitch, and Player. Join the CCFR, and we'll see you next week when two of the hosts are gone because Shot Chill. Again, last
We
chance.
might be
if
here.
you-
We might.
Yeah, we might be able to
With-
jump on. We'll have to see how it goes.
Probably not. We're going to be
Submit
shit-faced.
submit your suggestions for what the host want to check out for Shot Chill. Again, Gmail or Discord. And we'll see you next week.
Later.
Later.